4 of the Match Cup Australia, and so far 5 of the 8 quarterfinalists have been determined. Taylor Canfield, Chris Steele, Jan Gishard, Matt Jerwood, and David Gilmore.
And that just leaves 3 more spots. As our coverage continues here from Perth, Australia, we are live around the world on WMRT.com.
Welcome back to the Royal Freshwater Bay Yacht Club here in Perth, Australia for day 4 of the Match Cup Australia. I'm Tucker Thompson along with 2-time match racing world champion Simon Shaw, and this is the first event of the 2017 World Match Racing Tour.
We are live here in Perth and we are in our second home from home on this World Match Racing Tour, and what a spectacular race course we have out in front of us here. Absolutely spectacular, and we can't wait to get going. We've had some of the world's top sailors descending here in Perth. US 1 sailing Taylor Canfield really in form. But you know what? The story for me is how this event has leveled up. The talent of these sailors is just rising and rising, and it is all going to come to a head over the next 3 days. But as the tension builds, as things start to build up, let's just have a quick look at how things have progressed through the regatta to this final round.
So here's a look at yesterday's action when we determined 5 of the 8 quarterfinalists.
Big luff from Jerwood, and Williams is in a bit of a broach right on the edge. Williams just hanging on. Jerwood now trying to dig the knife in.
It will be exciting. Our plan is to first to have a better in the pre-start. Yesterday we had some learning on that, and then just hit the gas and go for it.
It is game on here. Posma against Canfield. Posma, the Flying Dutchman, coming out of the blocks, defeating 2 in a row yesterday.
PJ Postma gets a ticket back home.
David Gilmore trying to respond, but Evan Walker luffing all the time. The big aggressor coming in, and the umpires have weighed in. They didn't think David Gilmore did enough. It's a yellow penalty. Evan Walker picking up a puff, powering away. Look at that. When you need to dial a gust, you want to be Evan Walker right now. 0800 gust. Williams behind, fighting for his life in this Super 16 round. Jerwood there inflicting an amazing laugh, and now leading this match to bring it home and knock out the 6-time match racing world champion. They've beaten one of their heroes, and they've done it right in front of their home crowd here in Perth.
Pretty special for the team. It's not often you get to race a 6-time world champion, and not often you get to beat him in one race, let alone 3 in a row. So we got in front of them. He made a few mistakes on the start. We gave him a penalty in 2 of the 3 starts, and we just sailed away. You know, we're happy to race anyone, anytime, so anywhere.
Now let's take a look at the results overall from what we've seen this afternoon as the teams are looking to go on to the quarterfinals. Well, Taylor Canfield he's 3-0 over Peter Jan Postma. David Gilmore, we just saw 3-1 over Evan Walker. And then moving down to the bottom of the track, Sam Gilmore lost all 3 matches. David's brother, unfortunately, the Frenchman Jan Gishard. And Ian Williams lost all of his matches to Matt Jerwood. And then finally, very close between Chris Steele and Warrer, 3-2 in that match. And now we know who will move on into the quarterfinals. Only one more to be determined, Simon. Right there in the middle, it is all on. The top 16 whittled down to 8 tomorrow, and then finally 4 for the semifinals. Only 2 will be standing in the final of this regatta on Saturday afternoon. Of course, we're going to be live all over the world.
So that was the action yesterday, and my goodness, not without its drama. 6-time world champion Ian Williams from GAC Pindar down and out against local favourite Matt Jerwood right here from the Royal Perth Yacht Club. Fantastic performance by him. You know, he sailed out his skin. You know, he knew he needed to bring his A-game to come around a champion. No matter how rusty you are, if you've won 6 world championships, you know how to win matches. And Jerwood beat him 3-0.
Yeah, and how about David Gilmore? There were some exciting matches there.
Right at the brink there, Evan Walker, they're trying to fight back. He's over from Sydney, so it's a bit of a local derby between those two teams. David Gilmore won the first two. Evan Walker then fought back in the third. And then we had a do-or-die death match between the two where Gilmore just came round into the finish. The crowds were on their feet. And, you know, hopefully more of that amazing action to come.
So one theme that we are seeing here this week is that the Australians are here to play. They are contenders, and they have knocked out some of the best in the business, and there's a lot more to come. And don't forget all the ways in which you can watch the 2017 World Match Racing Tour.
Down and into the jibe, both boats playing through. We'll see the deploys as they come out of the jibe. Look, and it's a blue penalty. Wow.
Action-packed day here, and we have our quarter-finalists.
So, like we mentioned, 5 of the quarterfinalists have been determined. And Simon, today we are going to have 3 different pairings to determine the 3 other finalists, including Nicolai Sehested. He'll be sailing against Stephen Thomas. We've got Måns Homberg sailing against Match Racing World Champion Phil Robertson. Then finally, Nicklas Dackhammar will be racing against Torvar Mirsky. The teams are already out there practicing.
Still to come. Yeah, I mean, you can see the boats sailing around. We are getting ready for racing. Now they're going to be sailing on a windward leeward course. We're just going to have a little chat through that. We're just around the start area now. Milling around. That's the battle. That's where they enter above and below the committee boat into the pre-start zone where they'll both try and best each other in the jousting match, which is the match racing pre-start. And then along that top reach around the jibe mark, and then on a windward-leeward course, down to the bottom, up to the top, down to the bottom, back up to the top again, and then across in that short blast reach to the finish.
Speaking of short, these races taking anywhere from 8 to 12 minutes in these flying fast M32 catamarans. And we've seen all types of breeze conditions so far in the first 3 days of this competition. 2 days ago, massive wind, over 20 knots. Yesterday was a completely different wind direction than what we have here today, Simon. It's coming from the southwest.
I think we're back into what we'd call the regular conditions. You know, it's often you turn up on a World Tour event and they're like, oh, it's never normally like this. But yesterday we really did have one of those, in inverted commas, it's never normally like this days. The clock's starting to count down on this first match. And Sehested is up against Thomas. Now this is a really interesting matchup between these pairs.
And that's the yellow boat, Nicolai Sehested. He's sailed in the Volvo Ocean Race with Team Vestas Wind. And, of course, Stephen Thomas, he qualified by winning Perth Match Cup, right? You were here for that last week when local teams sparred to see who would make it into this top World Championship level event, first of the World Match Racing Tour 2017 season. And like we mentioned earlier, it's these young Australians that are really putting on a massively impressive performance in front of the hometown crowd here.
I mean, Thomas really impressed me. He actually won 20 races in a row in that qualifying round to come through here, unbeaten through that period. Totally first class. But, you know, this is a big test for him. And we had a bit of a chat earlier, and you know, I think he's slightly nervous. So I think perhaps watching Matt Joe would go out there and really seek and destroy. The levels really evened out through the pack this year. You know, last year we perhaps had 4 or 5 teams that were sort of right at the top of their game. And, you know, I think if anything coming into this year, we're talking about 7 or 8. And, you know, that's quite a special situation when you're coming into a World Championship level event to have 8 teams all actually genuinely capable of closing it out and winning. I don't think there are many of the world's top flight racing series that could genuinely claim that.
Now, just to bring you up to speed on the pre-start, you know, previous match racing, they'd enter at, you know, 5 minute, and they'd enter at 4 into the start. This time at 2 minutes. That's all they've got in the pre-start box. And one boat has to start to windward of the race committee boat, that white boat center screen. The other starts to leeward of it. They've got to start anywhere between 2 to 1 minute And then there's just a short amount of jostling, Simon, before they head back to the start. And here we go. The 2-minute signal is underway for race number 1.
Thomas coming in underneath the line of Sehested. That's right away. Just turning up, actually. Dead upwind. Sehested. Interesting move there from Thomas. He has managed to put Sehested about, who then jives back looking for the cross. Interesting move from Thomas. We'll see whether he can make that stick. At the moment, actually looks like Sehested perhaps snatching back some advantage. A lot more speed on his boat. He's thinking about going back and having another dig at him, and off he goes. Renowned for occasionally being slightly hot-headed, Sehested, and you know, again, super aggressive here, bow to bow in these M32 catamarans. Sehested on the left in the yellow, Thomas in the blue. And they are bow to bow. Sehested there just looking to bear away across the front, take the lead back.
On board with Sehested. 50 seconds to go to the start. Just a few more maneuvers before both boats will head to the line.
Stand by driving.
Time on distance, Simon, is crucial.
Sehested taking the lead really from about 1 minute 10 out. He's now leading back, 36 seconds to go now. Up high and slow. You can hear Sehested looking to try and burn speed, but Thomas already starting to bring the bow down. Sehested's got to defend the hook here. A long way down to the committee boat end. I think that Sehested in great shape here. Just got to control that time and distance. Really seems to have turned up this morning. Nip and tuck, fine judgment from these sailors. Great response from Sehested there, bringing the bow up. Final few seconds, there's the line. Can Sehested stay behind? There's the gun. And Sehested owning that start, absolutely inch perfect time, distance, judgment. He managed to compress Thomas back.
I'm just building
and a worthy winner of that pre-start maneuver.
So it is Nicolai Sehested who draws first blood on the start over Stephen Thomas, and now both boats powering into mark number 1. Sehested standing by for the deploy.
Coming across the top.
We're quite high here, almost upwind angle.
Yeah, you can see the wind actually shifting round to the left a little bit. And the Jenica's not coming out until they reach the reach mark.
I'm
And
good. But I'm not down
Sehested
yet.
first to turn down. I really like the temperament and tone of Sehested's voice at the moment.
Nice, lads. Yeah, I'm not gonna lay it though. What do you reckon you want?
When you hear that
What do you want?
robotic communication, it's process-driven
left turn.
decision-making.
Straight in, stand by. Driving in 3, 2, 1, driving.
So the first jibe to Nicolai Sehested, setting up for ley line into the bottom gates. And the choice by Thomas to jibe on him or continue.
Easy
Thomas
lane.
will continue on starboard, setting up for a jibe on Sehested's line to the bottom marks.
You're Phil.
That was a quick run.
Well, that's closer to the distance we'd be used to. And Sehested getting that absolutely bang on the money again. Thomas now coming down behind him, trying to keep it tight. Really, that's your objective now, is that follow boat. You know, he's in front of a home crowd.
Copy.
And he's just got to find a way back. Going through a jibe. Going to head off to the opposite side of the race course. Will cost him an extra turn, but the jibe's not as expensive as the tax. Round he goes, trimming that main back on, getting all the crew up on that
I'm
rack.
locked in here, so talk to me on boundary, please.
Looked to me like Thomas had to sail a little bit extra distance to get over to that other mark, the left-hand one.
Yeah, copy, we go to the mark there.
A split. Now the teams will continue. Tacking is costly in light air, so they're going to want to extend. Here comes
Tacking
the
in
first move from
3,
Sehested. He's
2,
all the way to the right-hand
1,
side.
tacking here.
Thomas, meanwhile, continuing out to the left.
I'm going to be okay here.
And Simon, you used to be a tactician in this game. When you look out over this race course, you see the split. Which one do you like? Which side, Sehested or Thomas?
You know what, I'll be honest, I'm going to put my hands up at this point. I don't really have a strong view. I think the course a lot more even for wind. I mean, it looks to me, down the lens of the camera, that Thomas may have come back a little.
I'm coming on again.
Sehested out
Really
that bottom mark, was a little
here.
bit slow for a little bit on.
He's not laying, eh? Stand by, a little dial to
Potential
wind him
lead
up.
change if Thomas can get across.
Here we
under
go,
the
dial
Like that,
from
that's
Sehested. Thomas bringing the bow down to get behind Sehested, just trying to keep him under pressure.
Speeding up. We need
Looked
the
like he
next
almost
cross.
had it across there, but under the rules he had to keep clear. You think that was the
Okay,
right
your
move?
call,
Just
and a go.
simple duck. He'll now
All
shift
right,
to the
stand by.
right. If
Tagging
he's close
in two.
enough, he may have a
One,
piece
tagging
of
here.
Sehested, who is tacking for the mark.
Great decision to
Yeah,
split
good
at
here.
the bottom from Thomas. Now tracking up, and you can see there only 3
mode.
of the crew allowed on the rack. Thomas looks really dialed in now.
Power up, please.
Sehested
Yeah.
crossing all the way to that exclusion zone. You can see Sehested calling
Here
for
we go.
power. They want to just lift that hull, just skim the top of the water. And Sehested actually electing to drive from inside the
I don't
boat
think we're crossing.
with the crew all up on the rack, and I think Thomas looking
We got
to
room in that mark there.
have one of the crew
All
in,
right.
and he drives from high, but we'll see at the moment. Thomas in the boat. Now can Thomas cross? This time
Room.
Thomas has the right of way. Sehested's calling for room. He
Room.
thinks he's inside.
Room. We're with him. With it.
So even though Sehested was on
We
port
got
under the old
room.
rules,
We got room to this mark.
under these rules he's got
Back in.
rights to
We
come
got
in on
room.
port, ask for room and tack.
You had 2 lengths between you and your mark.
Here we go. It's the almost doomsday scenario for the umpires. They both have room on each other. They're coming in the centre of that pre-start area. And Thomas actually gaining significantly there as the boats came about. They've only just got to decide, was Thomas's rounding seaman-like? He had the right of way. He was coming in on starboard. And to my judgment, he got that absolutely right, exploiting the rules, pushing it all as hard as he can, and gaining an advantage over Sehested. So the Perth man fighting back and potentially into the lead of this match. Well, we think we may well have a lead change.
So there it is, Thomas. You were right. He got the better of that mark rounding, and now he will lead Sehested into the bottom of the track quite comfortably.
Look at this. Look at that conveyor belt. He's just, look at the angle change. He's just gone through 25 degrees. He was sailing across the course. Just picked up a wonderful gust, and what was really only a couple of length cross has suddenly turned into a significant margin. Thomas kept it tight. He took his opportunity at the top of the course, and now he's managed to find a way to extend. Sehested just looking on in horror, really. It's been a almost perfectly constructed race for him.
Up until the part where it wasn't.
Well, he crossed to the left. You know, he crossed to the left and it was tight. And at that point, he was always exposed. He came back on the ley line for the top gate, which should have, it gave him some protection. He could get in and around the mark. But really just not quite having the sea room to round as efficiently as Thomas. And now we see the result of that.
18 seconds and counting now. It is Sehested on the offensive, on the back foot, trying to catch up and get back in the game. Meanwhile, Thomas will tack onto port and comfortably cross. Sehested tacking thin on Thomas's hip. Big left-hand shift on the race course, which reduces Thomas's options on this final beat. Not exactly how you think things would have turned out after that start if you were Nicolai Sehested. Now, this is a first to win 3, best of 5, so more chances to come. But yesterday, Simon, we saw a lot of blowouts, 3-0, including a loss to 6-time world champion Ian Williams.
Great performance from Jerwood in that match. And we're looking at, for me, one of the other Australian favourites, Steve Thomas, out in front against Nicolai Sehested. Sehested, you know, a real talent beyond his years. You know, we were talking earlier, and actually sort of almost one of the more seasoned sailors in this fleet now, but still, you know, very, very young and a massive sailing career ahead of him. he's done a really nice job of building a team and playing to his strengths and getting the right style of sailors on board with him to sort of generate advantage. And there's quite a different ethos. You know, this team we're looking at here in Steve Thomas, it's they're a bunch of young Australian sailors, all super talented, all sort of pulling in the same direction, you know, learning together as a unit, sort of growing up. It's almost like that sort of generation one team, if you will, that's come out of Australia, whereas Sehested actually sort of almost bringing in that talent, bringing in that experience by sort of hiring in more seasoned professionals into his racing team.
Well, these young guys also have had a lot more practice on these local waters, and it shows. There is the first victory for Stephen Thomas, the local heroes, over Nicolai Sehested.
Well, through the line we have first blood.
Sehested still having yet to get to the mark. It doesn't matter how far behind you are in a match race, half a length or 10 lengths. A loss is a loss. There is no second. But there is another chance. Simon, in just a few minutes. Race number 2. We've got a few more matches to cover this afternoon, including Måns Homberg, Phil Robertson. That'll be a good one. Nicklas, Dackhammar, and Torvar Mirsky, another Australian champion.
Sehested's going to have to figure out how to respond here. You know, for me, this was a very even match. You know, they were really head-to-head. I think as we watch the rest of this afternoon unfold here, this is going to be sailing entertainment at its best. Two sailors in form, strong teams, different advantages, but, you know, not much to pick. If you ask me who I thought was going to win from here, I think it's pretty even. Sehested has the experience. They both have the talent. Perhaps Steve Thomas having a little bit of an advantage in terms of hours in the boat, particularly this fleet of boats, which has been down here in Perth through the whole of this last year, and given these young Australian teams a real opportunity to grow and cultivate and vie for their place on the World Match Racing Tour.
Okay, well, we're going to go back and take a look at that controversial mark rounding. That's where it all went wrong for Sehested and right for Thomas.
So coming in now into this top gate, Steve Thomas has starboard advantage, but as they come up, they are both, just pause it there, they're both entitled to room around either mark, okay? So as they're coming in, we've got the blue of Thomas. He's entitled for Sehested to give him room to round that mark to the left, and Sehested, he's entitled for Thomas to give him room to round the mark to the left. And as we let that play forward, we can see Thomas there just coming out of that tack. Now he's on a much nicer angle to come in and round, and he did a nice job of holding the speed as really those two boats came together, partly exploiting that starboard advantage.
Room!
This time on board from Sehested.
Room! Room!
So we're looking for contact on that left-hand side. See there, the rack just rising up. So a little bit of a rub.
We got room to this mark.
There was contact.
We got room.
But no penalty out of that.
You had 2 lengths between you and your mark.
Interesting.
It's one of those funny ones. If Sehested hadn't laid that mark, I think Thomas would have been quite heavily penalised. But ultimately he could. There was contact. Maybe
no flag.
Thomas pushed that a little bit hard. But, you know, it obviously wasn't too hard because he got away with it.
Live by the sword. Well, it actually paid off that time. Still on board with Sehested, having rounded the left-hand mark looking upwind, and that affected a split that advantaged Thomas all the way down the final run. So back to Freshwater Bay here in Perth, and we're broadcasting live from the Royal Freshwater Bay Yacht Club. Beautiful sunny afternoon here in Western Australia as we prepare for match number 2. This time it is Måns Homberg. He will be in the blue boat. And Phil Robertson, the Kiwi, who surprised everybody with the $1 million prize last year in Sweden, winning the World Championship. Can he do it again? First, he'll have to progress through these rounds, make it to the quarterfinals and onward. And to do that, he'll have to top Måns Homberg, who probably will have a few things to say about it. None of these teams are a rollover, that's for sure. 3 minutes to go to the start.
I was with US1 actually just down having a chat to Aidan Goodrick and Taylor Canfield this morning, and they were kind of definitely cheering on Måns Homberg, sort of hoping for a bit of an upset. It's great to see from a spectator's perspective at least, the rivalry between Robertson and Canfield, and just sort of starting to build. It's nice to have people focused on really trying to win any which way. Måns Homberg has been developing all the way through the year. He's a new team on the tour for 2017, but son of Magnus Homberg, very experienced match racer. They really have been putting everything into preparing. It would clearly be an upset for Robertson to lose. He's the defending champion.
On board with Phil Robertson, the 2-minute signal coming up for both boats to enter the pre-start. Homberg on the right, the blue boat. Robertson on your left. Here's the entry.
Robertson crossing across the line of Homberg.
Massive speed for Phil Robertson and crew, the China 1 team.
Copy. Coming down here, boys.
I think Phil Robertson's one of the most relaxed, calm sailors on the circuit, you can tell.
Really strong communicator. We'll be listening to his calls during this pre-start.
Yep. 120. Driving, bow's coming up on the wind. Let's go. Big bow up here.
Coming up on 1 minute, both boats having jived onto starboard, heading back to the line.
Down.
Robertson pushing, Homberg
bow's coming,
leading.
Here we go. Almost hooked. Okay, for me, he's hooked there. Let's go full speed, boys. Working on it.
So there, Robertson just timing his run on the acceleration, waiting until Måns Homberg definitely unable to get behind him. Robertson now sticking the knife in, bringing the bow down. Look, going for a jibe, unconventional. 44 seconds to go. Phil Robertson turning down. He's going to loop all the way around.
Yeah.
Surprising move there.
Unexpected to me. Let's see.
Driving. Just can't get rolled here, okay, boys? Bow's coming up. Time to line.
2 downspeed maneuvers
here,
for Phil Robertson. You heard him say, let's not get rolled.
You'll get it with Trav. Trav up. Hit it, go, boys.
Can hear Robertson calling for speed. The Jenica already out, and Måns Homberg, he's looking
we're racing.
to roll.
Yeah, got to lock him.
Can he get across the front?
Boys.
Måns Homberg still faster through the water. Robertson now fast. Final few seconds. Måns Homberg has his Jenica out. Phil Robertson looking for the shutout. They're over the line. Robertson really trying to force Homberg back. The Y flags.
Was he clear?
Homberg going for the Jenica. It looks pretty pressured up at the moment.
On board with Robertson. There was a penalty. Homberg was likely over early there. Either way.
Robertson just coming in and shutting the door hard in the nose of Måns Homberg, who's now in all sorts of bother. Robertson going for another luff. The Jenica is flogging. He's parked at the mark. He's got a blue flag blazing. That penalty will wash quickly. Phil Robertson asking the question, is there another?
Go, big traveller. Go, boys.
But the 2017 champion, well, he won in 2016, but he's looking like he's got a shot at the next one.
Foreshadowing there, folks.
Sailing.
Man, what a master class in match racing. Phil Robertson
just above left turn
just smacked Måns Homberg into next week with those moves and easily takes the lead downwind.
We're looking at that haze. I can tell you what that is. That is a little bit of a rain squall that's just blown in. And I think that caught Måns Homberg by surprise. He'd unfurled the Jenica. He was already in what he thought was light winds to reach across the top of Robertson. And the gust came in. Robertson was better prepared for it, and he has stormed into a lead.
Already at the leeward mark, and it'll be a right-hand turn around the left-hand gate for Phil Robertson heading back upwind. There's the delta. That rain squall coming down, that might help Homberg reel him in a little bit. And we'll get a split at the bottom of the track. No surprise there. Robertson off to the left, Homberg to the right. Big heel.
Oh, look, a little bit of a cruise sliding down.
Around the mark.
We saw that happen to both Robertson and Homberg, actually. I think the team's just getting their heads around the fact that it is actually a lot windier now than it was earlier in all their setup.
I asked about the rule in that case, and in fact, you can go over the mark as long as both the board and the rudder also stay up in the air. Makes it look pretty spectacular from off the boat, that's for sure. Robertson having tacked already onto port to stay with Holmberg. Not comfortable to split and continue to that left-hand side.
What do you reckon? Just feel a little stalled here, boys. Yeah, please. I got a
Boats coming back together. We can see Måns Homberg actually driving from inside the hull. So he's the man off the rack. You're only allowed to have one of the crews has to be inside.
Lead change. Homberg on starboard, and he's ahead.
Great comeback from Måns Homberg. Look at that.
What a surprise. What a huge lead that has just been destroyed by Måns Homberg, and Phil Robertson will duck, head to the right-hand side now. He's playing catch-up.
Well, he's heading to that starboard advantage side. But that was a big shift across to the left. Måns Homberg has stormed into the lead.
Big surprise there. Didn't see that coming. I don't think Phil did either, but you can still hear Phil on board. He's still just calm and cool as he tries now to get back into the lead.
Great tack from Robertson. Just heard him call Traveller up, just waiting to get that bite, keeping that mainsail set. As soon as he's power on, he's trying to build. Now will Robertson a bounce back. He has the starboard advantage, but we did see the left-hand side of the course across to where Måns Homberg is now be quite tricky. But now Homberg bouncing back. I think Homberg's gained again. Look at that. Måns Homberg is going up this beat like Robertson is standing still. We saw Williams going out yesterday. This really would be an upset. Måns Homberg has been working hard through this season. In the last couple of tacks, he has just been unstoppable. Look at that, around the top mark, perfect speed, perfect set.
Well, you'd have to say that Phil Robertson did just about everything he could to give himself a chance to win this race, except for one error. Wrong way upwind, just for a minute and a half, and that made the difference. There's the delta. Homberg leading downwind by 13 seconds and counting.
But those opportunities to pass are clearly there.
Måns
Homberg through the turn, but picking up a bit of puff. Look at the difference in angle there. Both on starboard, perhaps 20 degrees difference in course. All the advantage still going to the man in blue, Måns Homberg.
Wait up. Step up, step up.
Powering down the run.
Are we just splitting gates here, okay, boys?
You can see the bottom mark looming into view. Just the two yellow gates to the bottom left.
Hey, what are you saying, Will?
I think Måns Homberg perhaps one and in, unless he can lay down.
Make it. Where's left turn lay line? How far? Copy. 2 and in, okay? 3, 2, 1, jiving.
So through the jibe, Homberg heading in to the left. Cool, calm and collected. He's found his way around Robertson now. Can he hang in as these two boats, these two potential heavyweights really? Certainly Robertson's a heavyweight and Måns Homberg's laying claim to it.
So Robertson will split to the left-hand side. That is where Homberg gained from in the last beat. So will the tide turn again, or can Homberg hold on over the current world champion?
And again, slightly shaky rounding from Robertson, just getting a little bit too much heel on the boat.
Yeah, I agree.
He's talking a lot more, too. We talked about how calm and relaxed he is. That seems to be deteriorating a little bit with every boat length in this race as Homberg continues his lead on this final beat-up win.
5, 3, 2, 1, going. Got it. Go Traveller, Traveller, Traveller.
There's definitely some tension on board. We're still hearing audio live from Robertson's boat. There's the view from Homberg. on starboard, setting up for the cross.
Need some ease here or something. Yeah. I got righty coming, eh? He should lead Bowers here.
Here we go. Robertson has come back a little bit.
Get it ripping. Okay, go Trav now. There you go.
Robertson thinks he's going to tack on his line. I think Måns Homberg correctly carrying on. Just got to stay expansive, under a bit of pressure into the top. Robertson ducking, he will have starboard advantage when the boats come back together.
Big lanes.
Just that leg to the top mark and then the dash to the finish, and it has leveled right back up. Robertson under pressure but not out. We're with Robertson across to the right. Those windward marks are starting to loom. Big split starting to generate. Both teams looking to keep it expansive. This is a drag race right now. A battle of the two tacticians. Who is right, left or right?
Yeah, I think we've got to go all into this.
Robertson continuing on.
3, 2, 1.
And Måns Homberg is a lot higher on port up on that far side. The right-hand side of the course, as we look down from our camera, has been stronger consistently during the day. Måns Homberg's headed out that way this time, and look at him. He is pressured up and fast. But Robertson coming back. Can he find a way back into this match?
Everything.
Not much to pick between the two teams. Måns Homberg just ahead, but he has one more tack to complete.
Get it all here.
They are coming back together. And Robertson there shouting.
They are overlapped.
He's starboard advantage.
Hey, that's it! Hey! What are you doing?
Possible
Now
penalty here.
Robertson calling for room at the mark. Homberg looking for the cross.
I will hit him next time if that's green. Okay. Hey, you're setting the
So
precedent then.
Robertson coaxing the
Let's go,
umpires
full
into a
speed.
penalty that will advantage him in this race and give him the lead. This is the final sprint to the finish. It is Homberg leading. No call from the umpires yet, which means there may not have been a penalty.
Well, we saw a flag, and I don't think it was blue.
Now, frustration on board. You can see the crew not happy on Homberg's boat. The question now is Robertson winning this match?
No, for me, that was a green. I think there was a little bit of a high five. For me, Homberg's through. I think he's closed this one out.
Well, we don't see a
Robertson
penalty flag.
He was sniffing for
Nah,
a little
Robert.
bit of an inside overlap, but in
I had a
truth,
chat to the umpires
he didn't really need room. A potential technical penalty there, but I think the umpires have just let that blow through.
Okay,
And
so
Måns
give the
Homberg.
race to Måns Homberg over Phil Robertson. 2 upsets, and that seems to be the theme of this week, Simon. The big boys are getting upset by the local Australian teams.
I mean, for sure. I mean, Måns Homberg coming over from Sweden, one of the young teams, and sailing super well.
What a surprising match. And here's Phil, you can hear him.
What were we coming in on? We're probably coming in on right face.
Wrong
Bottom in the
call.
end,
Can we hear what Phil Robertson is saying? Let's see if we can go in on
I
that.
was with you, Will. We needed to what? Out of the mark. Yeah, agree. We could have gone round and just flopped. Yeah.
So that's Phil Robertson talking to the
umpires.
umpire in that match. It's pretty funny in this sport that you get to do that, Simon. In other sports, you don't see the players, the professional players going right up to the
Umpire of match
umpires.
2, this is Orange Boat. Can you please come over?
This is going to be good.
Radio the umpire, come over, please. I'd like to give you a piece of my mind. I have a feeling Phil has a different opinion of that issue.
I think
we
we'll
got the
hear a
wood on
very
him.
calm Robertson now.
Sure.
He's just seeking clarification, just looking to exert that pressure. He is the defending champion, and perhaps just seeking some clarification.
You reckon he should have had another penalty?
My view is
Should've
they're going
made
to be
him
asking
feel.
why he wasn't given a second penalty on that top reach, but we
we're
will
gonna
find
have
out
to-
once the umpire's alongside. Robertson does just need to focus here on getting around that next match.
Yeah, umpire of match 2, this is Orange Boat. Do you copy?
25 to sequence.
Just hear the race management just thinking they're maybe just going to keep going with this. Try and roll into the
That
next
conversation
match.
might have to take place another time, huh?
Yeah, race committee, what channel are the umpires on? Over.
Counting down to the 4-minute signal in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. 4 minutes.
Was the 4-minute signal for race number 2, flight number 1, between Nicolai Sehested and Stephen Thomas.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the response. Over. Could have done it the first time, brother. Hot seat.
So either way, Phil not happy with the way that call went against him. So we're going to go, Simon, have a look at the replay of that incident. Here we go. Last turning mark. That is Homberg.
Robertson coming in with that starboard advantage. And I just don't think there was really enough of a duck there for the umpires really to come in and start penalising Måns Homberg there. Can we just watch that back again? Perhaps get a little slow-mo towards the end. Go back a tiny bit further because it's really key we see from before. So Måns Homberg coming over. Now Robertson, I think, having an overlap as the boats entered the zone. Now does Robertson, he has room, but is he able to take it? Does he have to duck? Well, maybe a little bit, but he was perhaps restricted in his turn. We've got actually just the man, 6-time world match racing champion Ian Williams, just sort of popped by up here in the VIP area and into commentary, and we're just watching that back. What do you Robertson, you can hear his voice there.
Ian, what do you think?
Hey, that's it! Hey! What are you doing? Checking. Guys, I will crash next time. I will hit him next time if that's green. Okay. Hey, you're setting the precedent then. Let's go, full speed. Bell's coming up here.
We're just hearing. Well, there we go. So plenty of action from there, and Robertson certainly getting a little bit het up. So plenty of excitement still to come.
Well, we'll revisit that later, perhaps get Phil's take on it and the umpire. But right now, with just 1 minute and 30 seconds to go to the start, match number 2 between Nicolai Sehested and Stephen Thomas. We're in the pre-start. They've already entered, coming up on the 1-minute mark, on board with Sehested.
So we do now have Ian Williams with us in the commentary position. GAC Pindal, 6-time world champion. Not expecting or hoping to be up here, I'm sure, but do thank you so much for taking the time. And I think we may be looking at a similar team in Thomas to you faced in Jerwood. One of these new young Australian teams, well practiced in this fleet of boats here. Coming now up against Nicolai Sehested, and just with a big picture hat on, it's great to see some of these young teams actually coming up and really raising their game up sort of to the very top.
It is great to see them coming up. Not necessarily that great for us, but no, it is good, and that's the concept really that Håkan Svensson came up to, is to give an opportunity for these young guys to get into professional sailing, and he's certainly doing that. They're getting a lot of chances to sail the boats, improve their skills, and they're getting very, very good.
Well, with the final 10 seconds, we're on board with Nicolai Sehested. He is in the yellow boat, just starting to roll across the top of Thomas, who's in the blue. And as the gun carts down, Sehested has responded. And he leads Thomas again off that top gate. Now, can he keep him behind?
Very valid question.
No Jenniker out this time. We haven't seen Thomas go for the unfurl. So flying fast across the top reach with just the mains. We'll see those Jennikers break out and onto the downwind. But Sehested will have his work cut out for him. We're on board with the Danish team now.
Very similar view to we saw in race number 1. We know how that ended up. So Sehested will be on the defensive, even though he's ahead, and already Thomas setting up for a lower line there. That didn't work. He'll give chase. Both boats continuing on starboard in what looks to be a left-hand shift. They're pointing closer to the bottom of the track. Sehested in the lead.
Little tighter Jenica trim on Sehested's boat there, which looks better to me. I think Steve needs to get on the handle there and get it in.
Well, through the jibe, Nicolai Sehested, I think, down on ley line. Most likely looking for that left-hand gate as he tracks downwind, across onto that right-hand side of the course as we look upwind. Sehested actually going for an extra jibe down to the bottom.
Here we are at the bottom of the track, so it's going to be a right-hand turn around the left-hand gate, looking upwind. Sehested leading, but only just by about 3/4 of a length. Thomas will split to the right with good speed. And this is where it all happened in the first match. The split upwind, Simon.
Well, we saw Thomas come back on the left before, which is right of screen. I think we're going to talk about the screen. So it's Sehested in the yellow, heading across to the right-hand side as we look out. Thomas now up and through the tack. All just popping out. Small unfurl on the Jenica just to try and make sure the bow drops down. And that hull skimming
now
the top of the water, right out of the tack.
Very close at the bottom of the track. Both teams split, as you can see here, and this is where we'll find out who is in the lead.
Sehested looking strong for me at the moment. Bow up, he's in a bit of sunshine. Maybe that makes his boat look like it's going faster. Solar power.
As you know, if it's close, Sehested will have to avoid. If it's not, if he's ahead, then the left-hand side paid off. And so it has.
Well, the delta between the boats, perhaps growing by a second or two, but still everything to play for as Thomas crosses to that right-hand side. Sehested continuing. I expect we'll see him head to ley line. They have these exclusion zones that run up and down either side of the racetrack. You can see there the yellow mark. Thomas going as far as he can, and actually the boat's very high on port, so the wind has moved round to the left.
There's the gates, far right of screen, the 2 green buoys. Leg 3 of 6, so we're going to go back downwind again. And with this left-hand shift, we're likely to see both teams on starboard, at least early on. Question for Sehested, the leader, will he simply round the right-hand mark and then jibe, or will he do an extra tack? No.
Certainly going for the bear away, and a great move from Sehested to lay up in one. I don't think he necessarily would have expected to have tacked onto ley line where he went round. Thomas went a few boat lengths past, I think perhaps hoping to exploit Sehested not laying the top gate.
And there comes the early jibe.
Thomas now around and turning into an immediate jibe. Sehested already covering that off, if you like, by coming through the turn. And back onto the downwind. Smart sailing from Sehested. Currently has this race under control. Thomas is throwing everything at him, but at the moment he's kind of matching that off and continuing to extend. That laying at the top has certainly earned him another couple of boat lengths. And sailing fast downwind.
Sehested with the hull flying, looks to be in a little bit better breeze as well. And as Ian said, you can see the spinnaker trim tighter on Sehested's boat than that of Thomas.
So a bit of a wrestle to get that in, Ian, is it?
Yeah, it can be. It's interesting that you saw Steve Thomas is doing quite a big dial down to pull his Jenica in, and whereas Nicolai are winding it in more often. But they seem to be getting it tighter and getting a better set. But it's interesting that Nicolai's gone to a different gate for this speed. The right-hand gate going right as we look at it worked for him on the first beat, and it seems strange to have changed that choice.
He didn't get the best of furls either on his Jenica. We can see just a little bit of that Jenica flapping in the centre. It's a little bit of a problem. You could see as they furled it away. Now that is extra windage. That will be slowing Sehested down. So right now, having sort of broken out into the lead. He's now sailing upwind with a lot more drag and potentially going what's statistically not been the quicker way around the racetrack. Obviously it can change. We can see him using the tack there as an opportunity to try and fix it, but it looks like quite a bad break in the furl. They can always kind of paper over it by trying to sort of pull it in and out and keep trying to wrap it round itself, but that is going to be a little bit of a flap all the way to the top.
Yeah, normally those small flaps cost you a small amount, not too bad, but the problem is if they come out, like as you can see, it's starting to get worse. You might see a guy go back in and refurl it up. But then the other problem is that if you need the Jenica again later in the race, it may not unfurl, and that's your big risk. But look now, it looks like the guy, Steve Thomas on port, is coming across way ahead.
Yeah, massive gains from that left-hand side. As you mentioned, Simon, that worked, and we've got a lead change. Thomas out in front, and Sehested looking at his transom again.
And I think we had audio coming out of Sehested's boat into that bottom gate. It didn't really sound like there was much of a decision, much of a process around how they were approaching that bottom mark. He's certainly electing, I think he was just on the ley line for it, and he just thought, well, you know what, we're pointing at it, we'll just go around that one, minimise the jibe, but it has cost him big time.
For me, it was a bizarre decision because they're in a big left-hand shift. The right gate looking downwind was way upwind, and the boats ended up going around, even though it was quite a long way ahead, about the same time. So it was it seemed strange at the time. I thought maybe he knew something I didn't, but then looking at it now, maybe not.
Well, Thomas has come back. The wind has gone a long way round to the left-hand side, and Thomas has exploited that. And he came around Sehested in the first match, and he has again come round Sehested in the second. It's mostly tactical, but my goodness, Sehested under pressure now. Leg 6 of 6.
And so once again, Nicolai Sehested and crew have done it. Or sorry, Stephen Thomas and crew have done it, besting Nicolai Sehested for the second time. Just one more match to go. If they win, they move on, and for Nicolai Sehested, it is do or die. It's going to have to be a lot more doing. It all came down to that left-hand side, didn't it?
I think that decision at the bottom. And they'll feel, I think, pretty dejected on board Sehested's boat now. They feel like very small mistakes, but they've been punished very aggressively for them. You know, that right-hand side as we look out has been on balance better, but it's not a complete no-brainer. But there had been a big prevailing shift come through, and I think Sehested perhaps thinking that maybe that was as far as it was going to go, but it went a little bit more.
So, question for you, Ian Williams. You're one of obviously the best skippers in this event, tour card holder, so is Sehested, so is Sally Barco. A lot of these big teams are getting beaten by the younger Australians who have arguably had more time in the boat, more practice, perhaps they know the conditions better. What's your take on all that?
Well, there's a slightly maybe strange, but there's a rule that says if you're a tour card holder, you're not allowed to sail in any of the qualifier events, which essentially means there's been no M32 match race events for us to sail in since July of last year, Marstrand. And whereas the guys who are non-tour card holders are doing qualifier events and getting practice. And for me, we felt that against Matt Joward, he beat us on every aspect. And that really, I think, came down to the amount of time he'd had practicing, particularly on these boats as well here in Perth, but generally doing M32 match racing. And you know, I have no complaints. He beat us in every aspect. As I said, I was just looking at Nicolai, and you say he might well be down, but he is actually winning the start. He's got something to cling on to, and you know, that might, if he can hold it around the course, he might be okay. We didn't even have that yesterday, so so there you go.
Damning with faint praise, Nicolai.
So speaking of the start, Simon, let's go back down to it. Here's the replay.
So here underneath, Thomas looking for a little bit of a luff. Nicolai Sehested backing the Jenica, but you can see getting a little bit slower. Sehested able to get through the tack, complete down onto starboard. Thomas always going to be slower out of that. Now, critically, start time was around now. And so the moment that Sehested completed that turn, he was always going to be leading off the line. But bold moves to kind of throw in that double tack, and I just wonder whether there were other options there for Matt Jerwood, perhaps not to try and match him through that manoeuvre.
So there is Stephen Thomas. I'm told he's ready to do a live interview with us. We're just going to set that up in a moment. Definitely curious to know his take on what we were talking to Ian Williams about. The younger teams having come through the qualifying rounds, having more time and more experience in the boat. So now let's go down on the water with Stephen Thomas.
So out onto the water with Steve Thomas. And Steve, I mean, not winning the starts, but you've managed to come round him twice. Where do you think the differences have been? Seems like a couple of the gains on the race course have been on that left-hand side, and quite a big shift in that last race. Is there anything in the weather you guys are sort of seeing on the water that could unlock that for our viewers?
You can definitely see, and the one tack laid at the top really did help in that last one for us to get across him. But you know, we did make a gain going the other mark for one of the races, so it is shifty. Wind has gone left. I think they're rejigging the course.
So as you're coming into this third match, you know, you've got to take one of the next three. Is there anything in the pre-start you guys are going to have a think about? Because you've followed off both.
Yeah, I think we have been super conservative in the pre-starts, and this one we will definitely push a little harder and try to stay bow even, or let's start ahead this one and see if we can hold it ahead of him.
Great stuff. Well, listen, good luck out there on the race course in your, what I suppose you hope will be your final match.
Yeah, we hope so. Thanks, Georgie.
Got to be careful with that, Simon. These sailors are superstitious. Almost.
Yeah, I don't believe in luck, really. I think he's going to have to make his own to find his way around Nicolai Sehested.
He's done well. He's certainly done well so far. And we get into our next match with Phil Robertson, who also led his opponent all the way around the track until the end. One thing is for sure, one thing we're learning in these matches all week in these M32s and these conditions here in Australia, no lead is confirmed until the very end. Particularly with David Gilmour's matches at the end of the day yesterday. They were getting ready to uncork the champagne. Things changed a few times. Penalties coming into play as well. So in a few moments, we'll go back down to the starting line. Måns Homberg one up over Phil Robertson. And how cool is it to have, well, I apologize to Ian Williams. It's not as cool for him to be up here. He'd rather be out there. But listening to him, Simon, analyze the trim, the tactics, the speed, what's going on out there.
You know, and there is the one, you know, obviously I did a lot of my sailing with Ian, but you know, the one, it's really interesting how he definitely knows where he's won and lost. You know, there are a lot of sailors, some of the best sailors in the world, you know, they're really good, but do they actually know why they're good or where they make the gains? You know, a lot of the behaviours, a lot of the things they do well, they do as what you'd call second nature. You know, they've learnt them empirically. They do something well, they log it in some area of their brain that they can't necessarily access with the bit that speaks and thinks, and then they record it and they repeat it. And that's how over hours and hours and hours they get better and better. You know, Ian is a sailor that actually does a lot of that same process-based stuff, but he's doing it at the front of his mind. You know, it makes him, well, you know, potentially a really good coach, but you know, certainly able to sort of sit up here on the balcony, watch the sailing and understand it and then apply it in his own sailing.
Well, one advantage for us is a disadvantage for some of these sailors as they get knocked out, and we get to bring them up here in the commentary booth. Here's one sailor who hopes we never have to invite him to do that. Phil Robertson, current world champion. We're on board with him, preparing for the next start.
Race number 2, Homberg is Robertson.
So there you can hear the race committee radio.
Are you ready to race? Over.
Telling us that in a few minutes they will start the pre-start gun. In the meantime, let's take a look again at how you can follow the racing action on the World Match Racing Tour.
Robertson ready.
Thank you. Daimer for sequence.
Down and into the jibe, both boats playing through. We'll see the deploys as they come out of the jibe. Look, and it's a blue penalty. Wow.
Action-packed day here, and we have our quarter-finalists.
There it is, live all across the world, however you want to experience the World Match Racing Tour. The future of sailing in these new M32 catamarans, definitely exciting. Regardless of the breeze, these things rip around the race course, and it is definitely a new game. Much faster, much more exciting than it has ever been before. And new players too, a lot of young guns coming out of the Olympics and skiffs, and high-performance boats, and of course, even the America's Cup is now in flying catamarans at speeds never before thought possible, just even a few years ago. And here in Perth, Australia, former host of the America's Cup in 1987, and we're back with professional match racing at the Royal Freshwater Bay Yacht Club. Beautiful shot of the guests on shore enjoying themselves. You can probably hear a few of them in the background, including Ian Williams. He's over there having finger sandwiches right now, Simon.
I definitely need to go and do a little bit of a raid on the VIP hospitality.
I mean, it could be worse. Just look at that fantastic weather, beautiful location. Thank you to the Royal Freshwater Bay Yacht Club.
So really interesting how this day is unfolding. We're about to see Robertson and Homberg going into the ring. And another day and another champion under pressure. Homberg has Robertson on the ropes, 1-0.
And again, this is a first to win 3, best of 5 knockout series. Phil Robertson. It's probably a very obvious shot to point out that helmets and life jackets are now the norm in this new level of professional sailing. Perhaps unheard of just a few years ago, but for good reason. These boats are fast, they're exciting. Last thing you want to do is fall off of one. I got a chance to go out the other day, Simon, 20 knots of breeze, and it just blew me away how exciting and how fast these new boats are.
So Robertson sailing really with what I'd call a group of skippers. And Will Tiller, absolutely first-class match race helmsman in his own right.
Same story, just flopping onto starboard in the century.
Stu Dobson,
probably want to be on the gun
James
here, I reckon, and put
Wisbowski.
heat on him to get...
Both again, really sort of skipper grade A material, all tacticians, all capable of doing all jobs around the boat. So kind of really thrown resource at that area, and with that coming out again as a product of that Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron kind of program, they've all got the skills all around the boat. And it really has proven to be a winning formula. Sailing a bit lighter than some of the other teams. So a little less speed maybe when they're fully pressed up, but allows the boat to accelerate a little quicker out of the tacks and jibes. He's down as he comes into the pre-start. He is a long way from out.
So here we go. The 2-minute gun has fired, and we're underway in race number 2. Robertson, the orange boat, entering above, and Holmberg below in blue.
Driving back, let's go. Hit it, boys, go hard.
You can see the 2 jibes there from Robertson. Now, traditionally, you'd call that leeward entry where Måns Homberg in the blue entered. That's a sort of advantageous position because ultimately he has that leeward sort of right. Robertson just trying to negate that really by those 2 quick jibes down onto his line. Homberg leading the turn down. Robertson, I think looking to continue to extend.
And deploy, yep, ready, go. Jiving, yep.
You hear Robertson saying they're about to deploy the Jenniker.
So round he goes, and Jennerkrat looking to try and dive in on the leeward side of Homberg.
We should get a good piece of him here, okay?
And he comes, looking to try for the hook. Homberg brings the bow up. The higher to angle he sails, the more protection he'll be able to generate for himself. Robertson may not be able to carry the Jennerkrat.
1, go Phil.
There we go, beautiful turn there from Robertson, looking for the furl, bringing his bow up. Homberg able to respond, Robertson bringing his bow up as Homberg looks to shut the door to windward now. Is he hooked? Is Robertson hooked? Yes, he is. So Måns Homberg bringing the bow up, trying to hold Robertson to the right-hand side.
Hide off him, okay? He's not laying.
Now can Homberg get in on the pin? At the moment, Robertson thinks he is below the line. 30 seconds to go. Homberg's got to work up to that mark, but he also can't get slow. If he's down thin on lay line, if he stops, he'll be in big trouble. If Homberg's not laying, though, will Robertson. Final 18 seconds. Homberg running out of room. He's early for the pin. I don't think he can lay up to it. Final 10 seconds. Robertson starting to roll across the front now. Final 5 seconds. Can Homberg get in at the pin? I think if he can, he's going to be early. Robertson looking for the roll.
Go, boys.
There's
so
the gun.
Yellow, it's a
full speed. Here
recall, yellow. Robertson was over the line, an unforced error, and he'll have to slow down.
No, wait, I think Robertson actually sailing in the blue flag.
Oh, stand back. We had that wrong.
So it's Homberg.
Just informed it was Homberg.
Looks like left shift coming, eh?
Homberg over early. He's already behind the penalty shed, but it's Robertson out in the lead.
So Robertson managing to stay behind the line, or potentially crossing to course side after Måns Homberg.
1, deploy.
Well, you were right, Simon. You called it. You said if he's going to make it up to the line, he's likely to be over, and his bow was. That gives the start to Robertson, but this is exactly the view we saw in the first race.
Right on it, eh?
Can Robertson maintain this?
Slowly sheeting on.
Keeping the weight up, boys.
And Robertson's just got to find a way to stay ahead.
Copy.
You know what? I think there's a man that can do it. It's going to be him.
Coming down.
You hear the crew giving him distance to the boundary before they'll have to jibe, and then also which mark they want to go around. They've not only decided that already, but also where they're going to go upwind. Now leading their opponent into the jibe on board with Robertson.
Homberg looking to continue.
I got righty coming, eh? Yeah, agree. Straight in here, boys. Straight in early tack.
You can hear them talking about where they want to go upwind, where they see the breeze, right-hand side. That would be left side of our screen as we look at it, and that's where Robertson heads around the leeward gate. Into the Jennerkrat furl.
We have seen Robertson round that left-hand mark as we look down from here in the commentary position, and most of the gains have been off to the right, and that is where Måns Homberg is going.
Go, hold trap. Got it, boys. Got it.
Now can he find a way back? Robertson, I think, tacking early to try and shadow Homberg.
Not let him get more leverage
Is
to that
this
side.
staying right all the
I think
time?
he's trying to cut down the leverage.
For me, it kind of looks like it.
You heard Homberg, Robertson just saying, for me, it's going right all the time.
He's a little here.
Good news for him.
Where's he? Can we get on his face? Or you want to go all the way? Yeah, agree, all the way to boundary.
There we go. You can hear Robertson,
hold
the decision making.
Hold everything, hold
with
everything.
his tactician.
Still, boys.
I think he just about had the distance that he could have tacked on him there. But instead deciding to go to boundary. Mature decision, I think. Unless you're absolutely certain you want to go the other way.
5.
Just bounce off the exclusion zones up these beats.
2, 1.
And he has gone all the way to the left-hand side of the race course. Approaching the boundary, and it'll be a tack into the top of the track. Still holding off Homberg this time. 3 more legs to go in this second race.
Boundaries here in like 30
picked
seconds.
up a bit of a nice shift
Holding.
on that right-hand side. I think we're going to see him really extend now.
Nice. We get close to lay here. I've got This is the last of the left for me.
You're looking at Måns Homberg. You're listening to Phil Robertson, the orange boat right of screen.
Okay, 5.
This is a solid lead, and it's one more tack into the top marks.
3.
And he'll do it right on top of Homberg's breeze.
1.
I mean, that's your dream scenario. Tacking onto layer line and on top of your competitor.
Got it.
Great tack from Robertson. And Jenica coming out just the right amount.
Yeah.
Keeping speed
I think we got
all the way
inside
through
right
the turn.
coming here. It looks like left on the mark.
Talking about the shift all the time. Real attention to detail on the
I
strategy.
reckon it's attack here. Look at the puff on my shoulder. Yeah, I agree. Actually, got ya. Okay, straight set,
Robertson coming
straight
up with
set,
the
early
ideas,
drive,
but
bounce
Will
coming
Tiller's
down.
in
East
charge.
trim. 3, 2, 1, deploy. Send it.
So carrying around the top mark.
Yeah.
Jenica
10,
out.
set up.
10 seconds to a jibe for Robertson in the
3.
lead. This time he's gained over Homberg, heading downwind on the run.
1, jiving.
Now, what will Homberg do? Follow Robertson around or split
Go, boys.
to the opposite gate? Most likely a split.
Well, he has no
Puff
options.
coming in
Robertson
5
with his
here,
early
okay?
jibe has
2,
really left Måns Homberg with
main sheet on.
no
Cheers,
real
guys.
options to be expansive. Great sailing from Robertson. Homberg will tack and round the same mark.
Yeah, so this is sort of all righty, isn't it, Will?
But he is now miles in front. Robertson has responded like a champion should. It's now an epic
Happy right turn bottom or
44.8
left
second
turn?
lead.
Certainly showing why he is the
Copy.
current reigning world champion of the World Match Racing Tour in these
Okay,
32
stand by.
catamarans.
5, 3, 2, 1, jiving.
There on the
Yeah, left turn. Yes, left turn. 3, 2, 1, go Phil.
We're down and starting to pack up and
2,
ready to go back upwind.
1.
Through just another final
Go
jibe.
Trev, just go get it there, get it
Out
there,
of
get it up,
order
get it
a
up.
little bit on the twin foils. Across they go, keeping great speed on the
Tacking
boat the
in
whole way through
15.
the turn.
Here Robertson just letting his crew know what the next move and how much time they've
Tacking
got
in
to do it.
10. We'll
their
need a
heads.
backwind.
Without even looking,
5,
they know when they'll be turning. Here it comes, 5
3,
seconds.
2, 1.
An attack from Robertson in the lead. He knows Homberg will go to the
Got
opposite
it.
gate, the
Trevor.
right-hand gate as we see it. Or at least he assumes he will. So he's centered up on the racetrack to stay on top of him. And he does.
He's
so now
going straight here.
He's in touch with his opponent.
I've sort of still got pressure on the right, Will. Yeah, agree. High mode here, boys.
Very conservative for Robertson.
Sure, I had time there just to stop, have a little bit of a
Mode's
drink.
all good.
Brief chat to our producer, and then Måns Homberg rounded.
Yeah, long turn.
That tells
I'd
me
say
that
left
Robertson
shift
is
at
a
the
long
top
way
mark,
ahead.
but all right
Not
at the
much has
moment, eh?
changed since your return, Simon.
Okay, stand by.
So
3.
if things stay as they are,
Actually, just
score
holding, just holding.
will be 2
He's just flopped there.
in these 2 races, 1-1, best of 3.
Yeah. All the
At
way,
least 2 more
boys.
matches to go. This
Happy
will
lefty
decide
on
who
the
will move
boundary.
into the quarterfinals, the top 8. A lot more sailing to go here on Freshwater Bay into the
3,
weekend.
2,
We'll
1,
be
going on
live,
that.
bringing you all of it here in Perth,
That's good.
Australia. Our leader
Got it, boys.
in this match, Homberg, trailing Robertson, just tacking
Yeah, copy.
towards the top of the beat.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take the high mode. Another puff in 3. This one kind of looks like a knock on my nose, but I'll just take this high groove, boys.
Look over his shoulder, Robertson just keeping
How
an
the
eye on
angle
Homberg.
changes, eh? Eesh. Okay, pressing a little here, Stewie. Bow's coming down.
Not exactly sure where the camera boat is in that shot, Shawsey, but it looks like they're pretty well teed up.
Absolutely, it's perfect. The best of the action here from Perth in our final set of Super 16 races to see who will advance to the quarterfinals. And at the moment, Robertson now pointing at the finish.
Well, this is the view that Måns Homberg saw in race number 1, and it's the view that Phil Robertson wanted in this one, and he's got it. Tying up at 1-all, Phil Robertson will take the race.
Nice job, boys. Ooh, hey, well sailed, lads. That was nice.
Well-deserved compliments from Robertson.
You can tell he was trying to build that sort of energy, to get back on top of it. He was just beginning to get a little flustered in the last match, you know, coming through, frustrated that he'd lost the lead. Could just now the umpires are coming up for a chat. They didn't want to have a chat to him before the last one.
With these guys with the water bottles.
Tell you what has amazed me, and we talked to Ian about it, Ian Williams, is that Robertson, also a tour card holder, hasn't sailed these boats since last July when he won, and yet of a lot of the heavy hitters, he seems to be going toe-to-toe against these young Australians who have, and also Homberg.
Okay.
A lot more sailing to go, though. It's easy to say that from up here, Simon, but there's Homberg still on the racetrack. One more tack to go.
Can we get a lift? Can we get one of the guys to lift the shore just to get some water?
He'll head to the finish. We'll take a short break after that finish.
Just to get some water.
And then set up for the next match, again with Nicolai Sehested and Stephen Thomas.
Yeah.
30 to sequence.
Just heard the race committee say 30 seconds till that start sequence.
Well sailed there on Will, that was nice.
The score there, Stephen Thomas 2, Nicolai Sehested 0 in a best of 3. So Sehested in a fight for his life to stay in this regatta as Homberg crosses the line. I want to hear from Phil Robertson, Simon. We're going to tee that interview up before we go to the pre-start of the next match. Just get his take on how he turned things around from race 1 to race 2 so handily.
Maybe a little backwards, so get this tillers out.
Here we go, on board with Phil Robertson.
So going out onto the water now with Phil Robertson taking that last match. That's a little bit more like it.
Yeah, we started that one a bit cleaner. It's pretty difficult conditions. It's awfully shifty, and you're pretty much sailing the same angles from one tack to the other. So you got to be on top of your game, and we just let the ball slip match 1 and managed to find our groove that one. So happy days. We're back in it and 1-1.
And some the jibe out in the pre-start, just about a minute to go. Managed to really clean him out in that start, Phil. Some stuff you've been sort of thinking about working on?
No, we're just making it up on the fly at the moment. We haven't really done a lot of match racing in these things, so yeah, it just made sense to us. And yeah, it's going to be tough. He's onto it, little Måns, and it's not going to be an easy match. So we've got to be on top of our side of it and make sure it's keeping it clean and pushing him a little bit in the pre-start. So I think that's where he's probably a little bit weaker.
Hey Phil, Tucker Thompson here. You mentioned that you have not sailed in these M32s since last July, but that doesn't seem to have slowed you guys down at all.
Yeah, we haven't. We've done a few days of training and that's about it. So definitely nowhere near the amount of hours that everyone else has put in. So yeah, we're sort of making it up and learning as we go right now. So every race is another practice race for us, and hopefully we can win them all.
Well, good luck with the rest of that practicing out there in the water, Phil. We'll be back to you after the next race or two.
Yeah, let's go forward here, boys.
It's funny.
Nice, cheers, guys.
You talk to some of the younger teams, Simon, and they say, well, we hope we qualify through the rounds. You talk to the more experienced teams, and they just say, well, we're going to practice. We're going to practice.
Well, you know, I think they're just kind of trying to stick the knife in a little bit. You know, there's certainly, we picked up on it in any of the top teams that we brought into the box that we put a radio in the hand of. They all kind of say, we haven't actually been allowed to go racing, so we haven't really had the practice and the build-up that we'd wanted, and I think they're just trying to get that changed.
Now all eyes back on the race course. The teams have already entered. It's Nicolai Sehested to your right of screen in yellow. Stephen Thomas just jibing now in the blue, minute 20 to go.
Thompson turning down through the jibe ahead of Sehested. Now Sehested in the yellow boat. He really has to close this one out. I mean, it's as simple as that. He's got to win this one. Bringing his bow up over the line. Thomas looking for the roll. Can he get it in? Thomas responds, bringing his bow up. Sehested straight across the front. Has the lead now as they come back. Thomas becomes the boat trying to push. Bringing the bow up. He has a lot of separation, so the nice separation to windward for Thomas.
And why is separation important to windward?
It just gives Thomas that opportunity to accelerate, and it also gives him the opportunity to both go for the hook, to go behind the line as Sehested, or to potentially roll across the front. He can just focus on his time and distance. That's what he's thinking about now. Final 15 seconds to go. Thomas now brings the bow down, starting to build speed. He's faster than Sehested at this point, but the boat's coming back together. Sehested has a good control of the time and distance in on the pin, and it is Thomas coming over the top. Sehested in control on the leeward side. Pretty even start from those two. Sehested perhaps slightly advantaged, a little bow forward. Neither of them electing to unfurl the Jenicas. They're flying the hulls full speed, high octane sailing across that top reach. Sehested, I think, is going to hold on. Thomas unable to roll.
It was Thomas who started farther back, but up to full speed quicker. Sehested on the line, but a touch slower. That has evened things up. Into mark number one, bow to bow. Sehested to the inside, trying to hold Thomas off.
Thomas dropping down onto the line as Sehested flying the hull. I mean, not more than a couple of meters between these two boats as we look back from Sehested onto Thomas. Just using a little bit of a gust to sort of ride down onto the inside, trying to prevent Sehested from being able to jibe out. Sehested through the jibe. Thomas looking for the match. Now can he roll? This is his opportunity. That Jenica coming on faster on Sehested slightly, but Thomas in a great position. Now can he roll? He's looking for it. He's starting to accelerate. And the man from Perth rolling, I think, around the front of Sehested, who is actually riding a bit of a gust. Seems like Sehested has his own wind. He's certainly running a much higher heel angle, but Thomas should be in a position to attack, to threaten that roll. Coming down to that bottom gate.
Think of the pressure that Sehested is under. He doesn't want Thomas to get ahead, and he doesn't want him to win, obviously, or Sehested's flight home will be a lot quicker than he thought. Here comes the jibe from both boats.
Well, into the three-length zone. Thomas turning down into the jibe. Sehested above him, and a great jibe from Thomas. But Sehested will have the inside on that right-hand mark. We'll see Thomas jibe, I'm sure, and head round to this left. But no. Sehested having to soak, and Thomas coming in to try and snatch the opportunity. He's going to come around the outside. Sehested with a jibe. It's gone to pieces for the Danishman, and Thomas has come around him on the ley line, rounded that right-hand mark and into the lead.
They just look a bit disheveled on board, Sehested. Either off the pace or just surprised by what has just happened, but Thomas definitely has the lead as we head back upwind.
I mean, he looked for the soak there. Normally, if you commit to that inside onto a soak ley line, it's very difficult for the other boat to come around. But Thomas just managed to keep the speed on, to keep his air clear long enough to shoot around the front, rounding in front again. And Sehested, after another great start, finds Thomas just somehow finding a way around him. He's really fluid. It's quite reactive sailing. They're not structured passes particularly. They're just sort of opportunistic, execution-based. He's taking his opportunities when they arrive, and he's used that to round that right-hand mark to head across to the right-hand side of the racetrack where we have seen advantages. And what he's done is he's snipped round by a couple of meters, and he's managed to turn that now into a 2 or 3 boat length lead. This will see Steve Thomas advance to the next round if he can hold on to this lead. And Sehested really has to find something now. If he is going to stay in this competition, it is time to raid that top drawer of secret moves, of top tricks, of boat handling and skill to find his way back in.
Well, you just can't let little opportunities, little cracks in the door open up for someone like Thomas. to have him roll that quickly. You can't make those small errors at this level if you're going to move on. In this regatta.
Lay line. It is always about those lay lines. As we say that, Sehested now has that right-hand side. Now, seems to have slowed right down just in that moment. Thomas bursting forward. Well, there are a lot of shifts and puffs on this course. You can see it. It's a very tricky racetrack. We heard Phil Robertson talking about that earlier. Sort of in the upper third of the race course now, and we're looking at Nicolai Sehested being crossed again by Steve Thomas. And it is all on.
So Sehested now will shift up to the left-hand side or the upper right corner of the course, depending on how you're looking at it, and set up on starboard tack. But he doesn't even have a piece of Thomas, who will comfortably round the top gates for the final downwind run.
Not the best tack from Sehested, which is not what he'd have liked.
And again, you can't have mistakes, small mistakes like that at this level if you're going to rise to the top of the game.
One more lap and around, and we will be, well, we'll be seeing a result. And if it stays like this, it will be Sehested out of the competition. Such tiny differences between the teams, and we're just seeing that transcend onto the scoreboard as complete whitewashers. Very unexpected. I think there's something in this racetrack that really punishes you for being behind.
It's called Australians.
Well, you know, just got Andy Feathers down there having a little bit of a chuckle. Oh, sorry, it's Ed Feathers, my bad.
Ed, the host of Radio 91.3, broadcasting live here in Perth, and certainly a big fan of any of the local teams that are doing well, as Thomas is in this regatta. Among many others, there's Thomas in the blue, and Sehested in a different time zone back there in yellow.
Wow.
Like we said to Ian Williams, it's surprising to see these big guns just get so easily rolled over by the young ones.
And Sehested has got a lot right in this pre-start, in this race, but it just hasn't made it onto the scoreboard. And Thomas has, I mean, he's really ridden his opportunities. He's just grabbed them by two hands, and he's sort of multiplied them somehow to turn this into a pretty big lead. Just the beat to go and the reach to the finish. And you know what? We're not just talking about the young Australian teams here. We've also seen Måns Homberg looking super strong in his match. We've been talking about this. It's been the story of 2017, really. Has been the arrival of the younger teams all being, and listen, the old teams are not old by any stretch, but the newer teams, if you will.
Well, then if you get really old, you just sit up here and talk about it, right?
Well, absolutely. These newer teams onto the tour have had access to more sailing in the last 6 to 9 months, and I think that does mean that they are just that tiny bit sharper. And you know, for us at home, I think that is a wonderful thing, because we're currently looking at a racetrack of a list of boats, of a list of skippers, with probably all of the quarter-finalists potentially capable of winning a regatta. Steve Thomas nearer screen on the blue.
Just so you know, that orange boat not on the race course, not in the race rather, on the race course, yes. A few other teams waiting to get their start in while they watch the conclusion of this match. Thomas about to seal the deal over Sehested from Denmark. Crowd enjoying themselves on shore here, as you would. Beautiful day at Royal Freshwater Bay Yacht Club in Perth, Australia. Puff of breeze from the side of the course where Sehested is, but it may be too little too late. There he is into frame now, and Stephen Thomas would cross comfortably ahead for the final turn in this race. There's the finish line in the foreground that black and white checkered buoys just off of the yacht club here. Not much left to say about that. It's all Thomas.
Well, he's done a nice job on this second lap of extending away. One fall down, one fall up. And they are back now, reaching towards the finish. And my goodness, saw Matt Jerwood do it yesterday, where he dispatched Ian Williams and GAC Pindar really like a bit of a leaf off the bottom of the sole of his shoe. And here Steve Thomas is going to come through. Sehested's put on a better effort, but Thomas doing it much the same.
One tagging here.
Heading for the finish line now. Stephen Thomas has done it. Wrapped up Nicolai Sehested 3-0 to move on into the quarterfinals. Pretty impressive. That's a sign of things to come, Simon. As these young Australian teams keep working their way up through the ranks in this regatta, they're going to start facing each other. And that should be pretty good action here on Freshwater Bay. Meanwhile, Nicolai Sehested, body language quite different. And their regatta is over. Well, let's go back into a replay, Simon, and find out how it all unfolded.
In that pre-start, Sehested putting onto that inside line, just managing his time and distance. But a solid start from Thomas in that windward position. Perhaps a tiny bit faster, but a little bit shy back from the line.
He was later than Sehested. I thought Sehested would have been able to hang on to that bow forward position.
Well, he essentially did into the top mark. They rounded.
So here we go, mark number 1.
Sehested round in front. And Thomas then just digging in a little bit. Now this is where he makes a bit of an advantage. He's down a little bit lower. We'll just slow down into slow-mo. Now from here, as they turn down through the jibe, Thomas already set up on the inside to try and roll. And watch the set. Sehested does a really nice job here of trying to negate that advantage. Much quicker on the trim. Great crew work from him. And you can see that it allows him just to live. He's fully almost up to speed there. But Thomas has the positioning. The battle was already won, if you will. He really used that.
Here's the view of those two jibes from on board. They've just rounded mark number 1.
And Thomas there riding the gust down.
It looked like Thomas beat him through the turn and ended up jibing quicker than Sehested. Simon?
I think, yeah, maybe a little bit. It was the distance down that he carved out that really gave him that positional advantage. And Sehested there sailing super hot. But in the end, Thomas just passed and then just continued to extend.
Well, the rest is history. Sehested will go home. Stephen Thomas will move on, and we will move down to the water to hear from the man himself.
So Steve Thomas, RPM Racing, Royal Perth Yacht Club, on home waters, and 3-0. You just can't write scripts like this.
Yeah, we're pretty stoked. It's been a long time coming for RPM Racing. We always seem to draw really tough competitors for these Super 16s, and finally we were able to beat one of those tough competitors.
Great sailing. I mean, you started, I think, behind in each match, but managed to find a way back round. You know, what do you think was the secret today?
We knew the racetrack was pretty even, and if we could just get around the bottom gates in a half-decent shape, that you know, our speed and our boat handling would give us a fighting chance. I guess we were way too conservative on the starts. It was our plan to make sure we just weren't stuck head to wind like we have been in Marstrand, and yeah, I don't know. I think we're just sailing the boat really well at the moment, so I'm happy with how the boys are going, and just keep that momentum going.
and you know, thinking forward into that quarterfinal round, is it just more of the same? What do you think you take away from today that you've learned to keep momentum building in your team?
I mean, definitely the starts have been a weak point for us today, and you know, we'll have a good think about how we can improve that, because you know, we won't be able to start like that and keep progressing through the series. You know, we need to get to that first reach mark first, and when we do that, we know we can stay ahead.
Well, great sailing. I can tell you what, there are a bunch of people cheering you on and super happy about that result here at the Freshwater Bay Yacht Club. You know, another young Australian Perth team through into the quarterfinal round. Congratulations. What superb sailing.
Thanks, Georgie.
Well, there you have it. And here's a look at the scores so far. We have Taylor Canfield and Sam Gilmore into the quarterfinals. Stephen Thomas has just been confirmed. We'll find out who he will match up against, and Jan Guichard also waiting to find out who he will face. Meanwhile, Matt Jerwood and Chris Steele also into the quarterfinals.
I mean, that is going to be one to watch, Jerwood versus Steele. I mean, now I'll tell you what, they're almost like Steele, for me, you know, really just rising up so quickly and showing such potential through last season. You know, coming into this one, for me, he's absolutely at front and center in terms of where this tour is progressing. But Matt Jerwood has, in my view, sort of really claimed his spot. He's sort of like the new Chris Steele, if you like. And so we've almost got a sort of Steele off, you know, down at the bottom of that quarterfinal round. And, you know, that there's going to be some thunder and lightning in that match. I don't know where the win is going to come from.
It's either going to be the new Chris Steele or the old Chris Steele. Neither one. Now, who will win this match tied at 1-1, Måns Homberg or Phil Robertson? This man, the orange team, Phil Robertson and China One, certainly hopes it will be them. Their eyes set on defending the World Championship. To do it, however, they've got to best Måns Homberg first. They've already lost one match to him.
Hey, slow here, boys.
We're about to into the pre-start here. We're on board with Robertson.
Slow.
Managing his time distance back.
I don't think so, nah.
Keeping half an eye on the watch, keeping an eye on the competitor. Looking at the exclusion zones.
Slow. Can't cross that line.
So here we go into the 2-minute entry period.
Okay, trimming on now, let's go.
Robertson definitely has a bit of a technique going where he's trying to enter from high, going with the option to jibe down. I think we'll see him do it again here.
So he's entered. Homberg has not. Homberg is late.
Bringing the bow down now. Looking to try and shut down. He's desperately trying to shut down the jibe, and he's managed to do a really nice job of holding Måns Homberg out to the left.
Coming up. Want to just cart him this way, boys.
Minute 15 seconds on the clock. Is Homberg in trouble? Can he get back to the line?
He's definitely got to start if he wants it. Robertson going through the jibe. But you know what? Robertson definitely in control. He's just jibed into position. Looking to throw that dirty air down. Homberg actually starting to come underneath. Has he got a laugh? I didn't expect him to be able to hook quite so quickly. Homberg diving in, forcing Robertson to tack now. How will Homberg respond?
Yeah, got it.
Not electing to tack. He's looking to hold steady.
2, 1.
I think that really wise sailing from Homberg. I don't think he had the time to do the double tack.
Yeah.
Robertson perhaps did. He didn't.
Here we go, boys. Way back, going at him.
And Robertson now needing to come back at him. Bring the bow down. Måns Homberg bringing the bow down. He'll go all the way down towards the ley line now.
Holding.
Oh, back up. Final 16 seconds. Expect we'll see Robertson starting to build now over the top. Måns Homberg a tiny bit early, but I think he's going to hold on to that inside line. It's going to come down to execution in the final few seconds. Robertson in the windward position. Homberg in the blue to leeward. All clear on the start line. And Homberg powering along. Great job of his acceleration with a much shorter piece of runway to build over. And he is holding on to that inside. He is not going to go down easily.
This has all the makings of a spectacular match. Both boats flying into mark number 1. Homberg to leeward, holding off the world champion Phil Robertson to windward.
Power, Stewie. Simo here, okay?
Slightly better rounding from Homberg, able to keep the power on the boat.
2, holding. 1, okay, driving.
Down into the turn. Måns Homberg looking to carry on as Robertson comes out the jibe. Will Tiller there just bringing on the Janica, the windward sheet. Bit of a trim from
course, Will.
James Wisbowski.
Yeah, this is left turn ideally, eh?
And then the jibe from Homberg to leeward.
I don't think we're getting in there.
A bit of a split between the two teams on the run. They're already talking about the next beat.
10, yeah, go. 5, 3, 2, 1, driving.
Robertson jibing for a right-hand turn at the leeward gates.
2,
Homberg, meanwhile,
1, go
rounding the left one, ahead by about 2.5 to 3 lengths.
1.
It's amazing how that distance closes up into the bottom. Robertson already around.
I think we need to get right.
Heading off to the right-hand side.
Possible lefty in 30. Yeah, going all the way.
You know, the language has changed
3,
from what we
2,
have to
1
what we
second.
need on board. If you notice, that one word makes all the difference. Robertson in trouble.
Okay, got it.
Well, Will Tiller there just saying, got to go to the extension. I think that's one of the advantages Robertson has, is having such strong tactical minds on board just to keep him steady. But Robertson, you could hear it in the tone of his voice. I think he'd seen that
Okay, let's get a ripping here.
Breeze was in the right-hand side.
Okay.
And Homberg, having won the first match, is now in a big lead in the third. That wind has clocked round to the right significantly.
Copy. Yeah, I agree.
You heard Robertson saying they wanted to get to the right.
3, 2, 1.
And Homberg not letting him get too far. He'll tack and stay with him. He's going to spend 2 tacks just to stay in the same piece of water as his opponent and not give Robertson any opportunity, any leverage to get back in the game.
Yeah, to stay high in this. I got lefty at the top, eh?
Kenny Robertson calling for a left-hand shift at the top. That's where they're headed, so that could help them. Meanwhile, Homberg will tack on starboard to stay with his opponent. Shifting into more conservative tactics. At the top of the beat, the windward leg. The other two boats, the red and green, waiting to sail their match, but it is Homberg in blue, Robertson to his right in orange, and trailing upwind.
Great tack from Robertson. I think he's broken back a little.
Leg 3 of 6, so a little bit more time left for Robertson to get back in the game, but give Homberg a lot of credit. He beat Robertson once, and he's teed up to do it again if he keeps this up. Into attack again to stay on top of Robertson. Is Robertson laying into the marks?
Well, if he does, it will be a big gain. Robertson's certainly a bit high on port. And he's coming back. He's bringing his bow up. Now, if he can lay in, he may well have even passed Robertson. He's certainly coming up now. He's looking like he's going to try and get in, and I think Måns Homberg has misjudged this. The wind has gone right round to the left, and Robertson piling round the inside into the lead in this match. What a comeback. He would have been 150 meters behind, but in those final seconds, he just wound up, and then he wound up, and then he wound up, and he is round the inside.
It's not over yet, though. Look at Homberg powering over the top of him as both boats head downwind on starboard. Who's got the lead? It's bow to bow.
And I think we've got another pass.
Yes, it's Homberg ahead.
Måns Homberg is coming round. It's not Magnus, it's Måns. But, you know, reminiscent of some of his father's success, he's managed to find a way straight back round. And you know what? Robertson's not out yet. No. The lead changed once, the lead's changed twice, and we're coming down to the bottom, almost neck and neck. Robertson hooking for the inside. Who will round this crucial bottom gate? Robertson in the orange, chasing.
Robertson is never out of any match. That's what keeps his matches entertaining. It looks as though there may be one more jibe in it. Robertson with his bow down, setting up to anticipate it, and we could have another lead change. He's certainly on the aggressive, but it is Homberg's race to lose again. He's only just ahead.
They are definitely going to jibe. Simultaneously, Robertson will look for the jibe on top. Down we come. This is a critical roll of the dice. Both teams looking to move to match point. Måns Homberg with the jibe around that right-hand mark. Robertson continuing on straight, almost rounding simultaneously. Right, who's picked right?
My money's with Robertson. He had a lot more speed, and Homberg had to do a down speed jibe to get around the left gate. Robertson full pace off to the right, and we've got a split.
Easing Trev.
This next tack, this next moment when the teams converge will define the race, likely. It is bow to bow at this point.
2, 1, backwards
Homberg
we
on
go.
the left, a little bit slow out of that tack with Robertson, and I think it's gone a bit light across the whole course.
Go Trev!
Homberg now starting to move, and it's Robertson's turn to be slow. They're coming out of opposite corners. This will possibly define the match. Måns Homberg in blue. He's on the right-hand side of screen, looking like he's got a little bit of extra pressure, but Robertson now picking up some puff. They're coming head-to-head. Robertson has the right of way. The boats come back together, and Homberg forced to duck. He's heading to the right-hand side, but Phil Robertson is just ahead, and actually Måns Homberg doing quite a big duck there and actually passing a couple of lengths behind. So perhaps not the tightest of ducks, but he is heading to that critical right-hand side. Maybe he'll be able to have the advantage when they come back together.
Seems to be good pressure on the water on this side where Homberg is tacking into, and that could disadvantage Robertson. That's the bad news. The good news, if you're a fan of Robertson, he is ahead by about a length and a half, but he has to do a tack. That'll slow him down. Here we go. And he's on port under the rules. He'll have to give way. Crucial cross coming up.
Well, absolutely perfect tacks from both boats. They're coming back together. No one is giving an inch. This time it is Homberg that has the starboard advantage. Robertson already got his bow down. I think he's going to duck. And we have another lead change here.
Inches in this match. These two teams trading blows like two prize fighters. Homberg, then Robertson, then Homberg again as we head to the top of the track. This leg 5 of 6 and the final sprint to the finish. Who will have it?
Now, critically, we know that they're going to be reaching to the finish, and that puts an advantage on this right-hand mark. And this time when they come back together, Robertson has timed it so he is coming in at the top with that starboard advantage and potentially the inside. Can he use that, or will Måns Homberg be able to either fly around the top or dive in on the inside? Robertson will have room when they come together. It is going to come down to this. Måns Homberg has a good angle, but Måns Homberg now having to bring the bow down. Robertson coming down for a dive. Both boats head to head. Måns Homberg bringing the bow back up. Now can Robertson lay? Måns Homberg is going to have to do another tack. Robertson through the tack. Is he on lay line? He must be. Coming in at the top. Homberg underneath.
High mode, high mode. High mode.
Robertson looking to try and lay. I think Homberg is definitely going to have to tack. Yes, he is. Now, can he have a piece of Robertson? He will have done an extra tack. I think Robertson should cross. It's going to be close. But the current reigning world champion, he has come around the outside. He has timed that beat to perfection, and he will sail in to try and claim what has been an epic battle.
If ever there was a victory, if ever there was a race to come from behind and earn the win, it was this one. Phil Robertson and crew many times behind, but ahead when it counted. Here at the finish, we'll go 2 up over Måns Homberg.
Well, there we go. This race is on between these two skippers. Robertson having a bit of a sigh of relief. I mean, you know, when you're a champion, what you want to do is you want to go out there and you want to just keep control of your processes, keep it calm, and do the kind of things, and be 150 meters ahead.
We can hear him on board.
He has
relief
not got that option.
And excitement.
It's got the shake, eh? When I let go for that round, No, I'll try and focus on that a bit, you're right. And yeah, I feel we might be dropping it a little bit too far, in the tacks. Because I need some grunt to move forwards again.
On board listening to Robertson and crew.
2.5, 3, I'm bringing like 2.5, like 2, even just shy of 2 maybe.
I think we just need a little up to get the boat moving forwards
And
again, to get traction on the rudders.
Back down again, right?
Yeah.
They're talking about their tacks.
175. We've got a
They're
good
strong.
Good Banoffee there, boys.
Mate, we came into the Banoffee effect there in the last beat. That was good. Bernoulli.
Stop thinking about dessert.
Good Banoffee. Ah, good. Real solid.
Well,
Do you reckon
we're going to leave Phil Robertson and go back into the replay, Simon, to see how it all went down. Of course, we begin again at the start.
Around and behind. I shouldn't have.
Homberg doing a really nice job diving in, getting the bit of the hook on Robertson, and then smartly not tacking.
I like what Robertson did there. Instead of just hanging as the windward boat and slowing down, right into attack for separation.
I think they both did a real nice job of that, you know, doing the
tacking here,
sort of
boys.
almost like the aggressor, getting
Tacking.
the hook, and then having the foresight not to tack.
East
Did a
strap,
great
east
job
strap.
of his
Yeah,
roll.
got it.
So then it was into the start.
And across the line, Måns Homberg on the inside. There, just across that period, a great job of his speed building, much shorter frame and runway. And Robertson unable to roll.
And here we are, top of the course, at that right into the finish here, Simon.
And this is really where the Empire struck back. Robertson coming onto a much thinner line and around the top mark to take the lead. But Måns Homberg reacts really well here, bringing the bow down. He's straight into a jibe. The boats come back together and Homberg forced to duck. He's heading to the right. And again, Robertson just holding on, but it was nip and tuck the whole way across here. Cross after cross. Through the tack.
Now, I've just been informed that we've got Måns Homberg on the water with the radio, and of course that's who you want to hear from. This has been the guy who's had defeat snatched from the jaws of victory. Simon, let's go down to him on the water.
So Måns out on the water, finding himself 2-0 down, but what a match. So many lead changes. What's going on out there? What's just the tactics upwind just seem out of control.
Yeah, the upwinds are really hard. You really have to get on the first shift right off the leeward gate, and I think we gave it away on that second leeward gate where we took the right-hand mark and he got ahead. So.
Now you're on the ropes a little bit, but sailing the boat extremely well. Is there anything different you're going to do into this these potentially last two matches to try and come around Phil Robertson?
Yeah, I think we're going to push him a bit harder in the start and then sail the ships on the upwind a bit better, and I think we're going to be fine. We got everything to win, so we feel good.
Good stuff. Well, listen, good luck out there. The crowd are absolutely loving it on the shore. So, and all the viewers at home, I'm sure we've had a couple of comments, actually. I think your mum's just commented on Facebook. So everyone's cheering you on. Good luck in the last match.
Thanks, Chelsea.
His mom commenting on Facebook. I like that. I wonder if she corrected me when I accidentally called Måns his father, Magnus, who's
That's actually when she commented. I think she wanted in on the family action. So you're in now, Mum.
We've got Mom, Dad, and son in. And here's a look at the scores. We already know Kentfield and Gilmore are through. So is Thomas and Jan Guichard and Jerwood and Steele. We are deciding these final two spots to be confirmed.
We've got great matchups to come into tomorrow. You know, I don't want to start looking forward too early, but Jerwood Steele is going to be sensational. So I'll tell you what, whoever makes it through to face Steve Thomas out of these two isn't going to have an easy ride either.
Well, if they will have earned it either way. The action, as you'd expect, is heating up out here on the water in Freshwater Bay as these qualifying rounds continue to tick down.
They're the Sol boat, Sol skis. I always think it's nice to have a snow sports sponsor when you're doing a bit of catamaran racing in Australia. Now that is, I think, one of the new teams out onto the racetrack. Torvar Mirsky. He's going to be racing Nicklas Dackhammar. Mirsky really breaking onto the tour in 2008 with a solid team. Then actually stepped back a little bit after signed as an America's Cup skipper, and team actually slightly fell apart. Ended up heading off and doing a bit of professional kite racing at the sort of genesis of that sport. But now back. He has a solid team. That time racing foiling kiteboards, now perhaps feels almost foresightful in terms of how the sport has evolved. And Mirsky is back on the World Match Racing Tour. An honorary heavyweight, really, and he will be facing Nicklas Dackhammar. I think he's really looking to try and find his rhythm on this World Match Racing Tour. One of the strongest teams on that Scandinavian series in the early rounds.
Yeah, he's perhaps one of the most experienced M32 sailors in this fleet. In terms of speed and boat handling, he's sailed these boats quite a lot. So coming up on the 2-minute pre-start entry period in 45 seconds. And then, of course, after this match, we'll go back to a very exciting Phil Robertson and Måns Homberg match to determine who will move on.
Well, no, we're ready to look. But out there onto the racetrack, and yet another match. Torvar Mirsky, for me, potentially the favourite coming in. But in his first match racing regatta in an M32 since he's become a skipper, he has a lot to prove.
Yet another talented Australian team down here in Perth. And here we go, the 2-minute entry period for Mirsky and Dackhammar. Mirsky to leeward of the race committee boat in green, Dackhammar to windward in red. And these two teams will have watched all the other pre-starts so far and determined exactly what they want out of this. Here we go on board with Dackhammar.
Nicklas Dackhammar.
Thank you.
Now he brought the bow down in much the same way we've seen Robertson do. Looking to try and get immediately down onto the line of Mirsky, who's just kind of hammered in full bore. Now, in some ways that's the way to do it. You have that advantage leeward position. You know you just hammer in, sail for about a minute, turn round, hammer back. Seems to be his plan.
You make it sound so easy, Simon.
He's brought the bow down, looking to waste a little bit of time. There's Dackhammar, the duck hunter, jibing onto his stern. Looking to try and pressure him back, but at the moment, Mirsky under no pressure at all, really. Dackhammar's a little way back, who unfurling his Jenica to try and come in for a little bit of a hook. Mirsky is slow. He will have to respond here. Dackhammar coming in underneath. Now, Mirsky needs to respond. He's sheeting on. He's got to not get caught, got to not get forced to attack here. Needs to stay fast. Dackhammar's come underneath now. Can he hold Mirsky off in this sea start? He's done a really nice job. I think Mirsky just got a little bit slow. Has he got enough separation? Can Mirsky roll across the front? He's bringing the bow down now. Certainly looking a little bit stronger, just holding on to enough separation. Bring the bow down. Dackhammar bringing the bow up on the inside. Mirsky slow now, they're running out of room. 7 seconds to go. Mirsky's got the bow up. Can he hold Dackhammar back? Final few seconds. The gun's gone. Mirsky's still high, trying to luff out Dackhammar, who's trying to roll. Who will have the advantage? And Dackhammar starts to move over the top of Mirsky, who's just bringing his bow down to try and respond. They're a lot higher than the course axis at the moment. Dackhammar just holding in that windward position. I think he's just going to roll. Mirsky hanging in on the inside, coming up on the jibe mark. And Mirsky there bringing his bow up. Dackhammar just around in front. But absolutely nip and tuck across that top reach. Both skippers exchanging advantage one way or the other. But it is Dackhammar that holds on, and he's the one leading out that first top mark.
Well, definitely an exciting pre-start, an exciting first reach, and it is far from over. The jibe coming up. Dackhammar just leading Mirsky, whose line is a little bit higher on the run. And the exclusion zone, that yellow buoy there coming up. Each team will need to jibe relatively soon. It is a left-hand shift on the race course. They're trying to hold as long as they can on this board. Who will jibe first, Simon?
Well, the timing of this absolutely critical. Both skippers, I think, trying to sneak down the side of the exclusion zone to try and find their way in to the bottom gate in one. They're through the turn now, and Dackhammer's done a great job of managing that. Mirsky bang on his line. They're through the turn simultaneously and laying down to the bottom mark. Now, which way will they go? We have seen advantage to go for that jibe, but I think, well, yeah, Dackhammer's going to take it, turning down, and that will lead the way clear for Mirsky to actually get a much better rounding on this near mark.
Interesting, Dackhammar gave that up and still hasn't rounded the mark. He was clearly ahead, and he gave that rounding to Torvar Mirsky, who now heads upwind to the right. Dackhammar now heading to the left.
That was a very difficult decision, because we have seen that right-hand side as we look out has been paying, and there have been significant advantages at times on the bottom right.
In that wide shot that we just saw, I thought there was a lot more breeze where Mirsky's boat was. Tough to tell from here, of course, on TV, but we'll see who's across. Both teams have tacked. Mirsky on starboard from the right or left of your screen. Dackhammar on port on the right-hand side of the screen. Mirsky has rights as the starboard boat. Dackhammar will have to give way unless he's clear across. Here we go.
Dackhammar holding his bow up. No, it is Mirsky. Took the advantage at the bottom mark. I did just see a twitch in Dackhammer's bow, and there we go. Mirsky has managed to cross. We have a lead change at the bottom.
And I think more than Mirsky taking the lead, it was Dackhammar giving it to him. Would you agree?
That was a very difficult decision. I mean, yes, ultimately it was Dackhammer's choice to go for the jibe that has led to Mirsky overtaking. But remember, Dackhammar has only ducked by perhaps a length, and he's heading off to that advantage right-hand side. Mirsky's looking to shadow him, hitting a bit of a hole.
A hole, of course, less breeze, not necessarily advantageous. He is, however, ahead, or was. We'll see what happens at the next cross.
He's looking solid there, flying the hull in the windward position. And they're coming back together. Dackhammar through the tack onto starboard. Now can Mirsky cross? He looks to be bow down.
No.
And I think we have it shifting back. Again, that boat with that starboard advantage just holding on. Mirsky with the tack. Needs to really make this stick. I don't think the best attacks from Mirsky. Certainly not quite as good as Dackhammer's. But when they come back together, will Mirsky have a piece? It's a very hard judgment for Dackhammar to make at the top. He's not on ley line. I think he can get to the ley line for the left-hand mark as we look out. And up they come through the tack. Dackhammar needs to look for the cross. Mirsky has starboard, he has the right of way, and Dackhammar in a slightly lighter patch of pressure. Mirsky coming in the green, has the starboard advantage. Dackhammar bring the bow up, he's looking for the cross, he's going to be forced around. Mirsky coming on the inside, and Dackhammar unable to cross, unable to duck. He's holding Dackhammar over to the left-hand side of the course, and now Mirsky through the turn. Dackhammar will have room. Mirsky, I think, will have to head across to this far side. Jenica already starting to come out. I think we will see Dackhammar follow nip and tuck between these two boats the whole way around, and nip and tuck around the top mark. Mirsky into the lead. Dackhammar chasing him down in second place.
Well, beautiful sailing from yet another Australian team here in Perth on Freshwater Bay. Mirsky coming from behind and now commands the race as we head downwind for the last time.
Well, down they come. Dackhammar looking to try and hold on to a low line, but now a double jibe, simultaneous. Dackhammar looking to jibe on top of Mirsky. But he's a long way back. I don't think really in a position to affect him.
Sounds like there's an issue on board. Dackhammar's boat, I guess. That's where the audio is coming from.
I think that actually, yeah, you can hear.
I think that's some unpolite words in Swedish.
That's definitely not Mirsky, is it? I just saw Mirsky playing with this board. I won't be able to get it up, but they have now.
Now, the final turn at the leeward gates. Mirsky will choose. Well, which one will he choose? It looks as though he's going to go around the same mark that advantaged him the last time, and Dackhammar elected to go to the opposite mark. We'll see if the same occurs. But it is Mirsky's race to lose at this point. The delta about 4 boat lengths.
Dackhammar around the opposite mark. Right move from him. Nice fast rounding, actually. Kept that speed. That jibe drop move is a real good one. Don't really lose any distance at all.
Mirsky electing to tack and stay with his opponent. Stay close anyway and protect his lead.
I tell you what, right now, Nicklas Dackhammar is fast on that far right-hand side. Mirsky, I think, quick to respond. He's tacking back across, but this race, in my view, not over. Dackhammar through the tack needs a good one now. I did just see a small flap in Dackhammar's main, which is never fast through the tack, but he's up and going now. Mirsky coming across from the right-hand side. Has the starboard advantage, has a nice angle, but Dackhammar, I think, having been in a little bit of pressure, has closed up a little, but Mirsky still very much with the control.
This once again a first to win 3 knockout series, a best of 5, and Mirsky leading Dackhammar on the final beat up win before the finish, looking to draw first blood. We've seen Sam Gilmore and David Gilmore in this competition. When there's a third brother, Lockie Gilmore, and he's sailing aboard Mirsky's boat today. Thanks for Ed Feathers for giving us that info. You've heard him all week on 91.3. And there's the view again from Dackhammar's boat from the left. Not necessarily the view he likes to see. That green boat planting attack right on top of him as we approach the windward gate yet again. Mirsky out in front. And at this point, it's just shift into defensive mode, keep it conservative, and get around the final mark, the final turn for the final sprint to the finish, just left of screen. The black and white checkered buoys. And there, the green windward gates. It's a right-hand turn for Mirsky as he heads for home.
Round the top, Mirsky coming in towards the finish. Superb sailing. Great return to form for yet another Perth team. Quite a different backstory to this skipper, to this helmsman, but ultimately the same result.
And there it is. First place, Torvar Mirsky. You can hear the crowds on shore, certainly a fan of these young Australian teams. Mirsky will go one up over Nicklas Dackhammar. More sailing to come here on Freshwater Bay in Perth, Australia, as the Match Cup Australia continues. The first stop on the 2017 World Match Racing Tour. And Simon, you can watch it live all over the world. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, WMRT.com.
It's all there. We are streaming live from 2. We actually went live a little early today, sort of 1:45, just to try and bring everyone the best of the action from today.
And there's Nicklas Dackhammar limping across the line behind. Well, Simon, let's take a look at how it all went down. For me, it was at the bottom of the track, Dackhammar leading.
So into the bottom. Dackhammar now has a very difficult choice. He's got a nice run around that left-hand mark, but we'd seen some big gains, possibly from the one on the far side. Deciding to cover off those possible advantages that might have come tactically from heading across to the far side, off to the left-hand side of the racecourse.
But it certainly cost him a lot to get there. An extra jibe, sailing through his opponent's lever a little bit. And then, of course, having the disadvantage of being on port when the two teams converged again. Here we go.
And then Dackhammar attacking to try and cross Mirsky. And I just wonder whether Dackhammar needed to bring the bow hard down out of that tack. But he was in almost the dreaded worst position. He was nearly across, but not quite. And he had a look at it. He had a go at it. Perhaps should have come in and tacked later, maybe, so that he could have pushed for a duck, but been more likely to lay. But I think the exclusion zone prevented that. And Mirsky able to pounce to convert that into the lead and ultimately convert that into winning out the match.
And there it is. A lead from which Mirsky never looked back, leaving Dackhammar in the dust. That's Mirsky waiting for the next start,
Torvar
the next
Mirsky,
match.
Torvar Mirsky, are you there?
Yep, we're here.
So, Torvar, great race, mate. Nice to be back here in local waters into a knockout round as the first event since returning to the World Match Racing Tour as a skipper. You must be pleased with the first one.
This is my first race skippering a match race at the World Match Racing Tour for a number of years, and I'm just stoked to come away with a win there. The boys dug deep, and we had a brutal race with Dackhammar there. It was about physical power, and we just got through him.
And we've seen lead change after lead change out here this afternoon. You know, what do you think's going on these beats? How do you read this course?
Yeah, it's a southerly frontal system. It's not a normal doctor, and it's puffing all over the place. So it's quite tricky to read. The gusts are like clear on the water, but they're very short, so it's hard to line them up together. So we were just happy to hold in there and not get too far behind.
Yeah, Torvar, Tucker Thompson here. Question for you at the bottom of the track where it all went down for you. Dackhammar elected to jibe and take the right-hand gate. Did you see that coming? Was that where the door was open?
Yeah, that was an interesting buy, Nicklas. I think, you know, he's probably regretting that one now, but, you know, he probably obviously saw, we were thinking, I think both teams were thinking that right gate at the bottom initially, and he just, you know, was adamant to go for it and just gave us a clear run to the left, which was probably a bit of his mistake, and we were able to capitalise on that.
Well, good stuff, Torvar. Certainly a popular win here on the shore, and, you know, good luck in your next match.
Thanks, Shawsy. Thanks, Doug. Cheers.
So now let's take a look at the scores as they currently stand. Well, we will in a moment anyway. Here we go. Canfield and Gilmore are into the quarterfinals. So is Stephen Thomas and Jan Gishard, Matt Jerwood and Chris Steele. And we're trying to find out who will take those final 2 spots in the quarterfinals. Will it be Nicklas Dackhammar or Torvar Mirsky, or perhaps Måns Homberg or Phil Robertson? We'll see as live action continues here in Perth, in the Match Cup Australia. Back out on the water. The next match will be Phil Robertson. He's up 2 races over Måns Homberg. We're in the pre-start. We'll give you an update on the time to the start in just a few moments, as Robertson leads Homberg back towards the line. We're guessing just over a minute to go. Bingo, 1 minute to go to the start. Robertson leading. Homberg going for the hook, trying to get a piece of him down there to leeward. Robertson will close the door and say, no, thank you very much. He'll fight hard for that leeward spot, so Homberg will luff up to windward. He's now hooked and will sit in that spot, not going to get down below Robertson, who has fought and earned the leeward position. 38 seconds to go. Homberg at this point trying to gain windward gauge, trying to separate off of Robertson and give himself enough runway to put the bow down and accelerate. Time on distance is crucial at this point. 25 seconds to go. Robertson goes for a sharp luff, surprise move, and attack with 20 seconds to go. Homberg will tack on top of him. Likely he was thin on the lay line for the pin. Very slow down speed tack for Robertson again, and very aggressive tactics in what could be a shutout. Now he'll get to leeward and get up to speed. Just 5 seconds to go. Can Robertson get his bow down into the pin, or will Homberg roll over the top? Here we go, 2-1. There's the gun. Robertson is slow but bow forward. Homberg powering, and that is pretty much a dead even start for these two heavyweights as they reach into mark number 1 already. Robertson luffing to leeward. Another luff, trying to hold off Homberg. Homberg, under the rules, has to keep clear, has to respond, doesn't want to get a penalty, and the game has slowed right down. The next mark will have to wait. Robertson puts the brakes on Homberg, going for the penalty.
Go now, back, Jimmy, back. East trap. Go, boys, go. Yep. Tighter, Jimmy, tighter, go. First,
Great love from Robertson.
Ready for deploy, Jimmy.
Just able to hold him back.
2.
And remember this match point for Homberg. Robertson there doing a beautiful job holding up Homberg. Now just timing his run to accelerate away. There's the jibe mark. Ending up really high. They've just reset that reach, so it's not as tight as it was before. Robertson just picking up on that.
On the front of a shift here, boys.
Homberg just behind, hot on his heels.
Well strapped, buddy.
Now can he find a way to strike? He's certainly closed up
just bringing
a length of that distance so far.
I think it was interesting. So, you know, the mark of some of the best match racers are able to stop the game when it's that tense and that close and reset things. Robertson did just that. He wasn't perhaps bow forward enough, and after luffing Homberg, he takes the lead at mark 1.
Left 10, right 10.
Now about a length and a half as these two teams power downwind. The jibe coming up.
2, 1, jibing.
So round they go, match jibe. Homberg just a tiny bit quicker on the sheet.
3 left turn, okay, righty coming. Wait up. Yeah, we're a little
Robertson in straight. He's going to round that left-hand mark as they're looking downwind.
3.
And out here from the shore, Måns Homberg,
2,
I think, will end up having
1,
to follow.
You heard Robertson say righty coming, so they're heading to the right to take advantage of it now. Will Homberg jibe and split or follow Robertson around? As you say, Simon Shaw, he'll follow Robertson. The delta now 2 lengths. You heard Robertson call tacking with. The next move will come from Homberg, and Robertson will respond.
So small slip from Homberg.
I agree.
He needed to have led that jibe earlier because he actually let Robertson come in on a better angle to that bottom mark than he did. And if that was going to be the case,
got it. Go Traveller.
He needed to have led that jibe earlier. Get asked a much harder question of
all the time high mode here.
Phil Robertson, who actually laid down super easily. And Homberg now through the tack, and Robertson has slowly scripted that leeward mark, that small advantage he gained at the bottom through what looks like now a 3-boat length lead.
We go with him.
Almost bang in phase. An exclusion zone there, forcing both boats to attack in almost the same place. And Robertson seems to be firing all cylinders. You can hear that tone.
I'm sorry, I'm calling.
He's like a conductor.
Slower.
Speed build. Speed build.
Robertson thinking about attack, and then
Jimmy calling puff.
I think James and Will stepping in and saying no, carry on. Keep it simple.
You can hear all the crew feeding info back to Phil. One guy calling the puffs, the other guy calling the other boat, the opponent.
3, 2, 1.
The third calling the tactics. Here we go. Homberg has tacked onto port.
Got it.
And so has Robertson to stay with him. The boats slow down a bit in these tacks and then rip right back up to full speed. That's Robertson right of screen in orange, Homberg to the left in blue. Homberg looks like he might have gained just a little bit there.
Still very tight. He's able to keep it tight enough that he has an opportunity to strike back.
Shift on the top gate, eh?
But Robertson
left
sailing so well, perhaps
here?
gauging off a little.
Pressing.
The knock now down onto Robertson as well.
Is he on lay? Calling lay lines, Stu.
Robertson continuing to ask of more information from his crew so he can make the crucial decision. Here's the tack on lay line for the top mark and on top of Homberg, a tough position for Homberg to come back from.
I'm not sure Homberg is on lay line.
I think we've got righty coming though.
Robertson thinks they've got a lift to come, so maybe
East.
That will allow Homberg to lay up.
Left
That's
turn,
certainly perhaps the only way that Homberg's going to stay in touch here. He is slowly dropping back. Robertson seems to have really stamped that right foot down in the last match. Found another gear. Perhaps Måns Homberg
3
hasn't been able to find.
1. Deploy.
And Robertson now around as we see Homberg tacking to come around this opposite mark. Robertson opens up the clock on him.
Driving in
starts to march forward. He's at match point and he's leading
2, 1,
in this fourth match. Homberg now following.
Big puff coming here, boys. A little more trim, I think.
Down he comes on a very slow unfurl from Måns. He's actually going through a jibe and popping back out.
Yeah, good.
But Robertson is ripping up this race course.
This is all gains for
Just
us,
ticking off the miles and continuing to gain. You can hear Robertson, all gains for us.
On boundary, should be lay. 5. A little further here. 3, got it. 2.
Hugh Dodson there in the middle. Just
driving.
heart rate right up in the sky. Taking just 1 second to have a breath and then right back into the boat handling, into the bottom mark. Final of this race.
Yeah, Traveller. Under trimming, Jimmy. Still 1, left turn, right turn. Yeah,
Far
3.
left of the screen, the 2 yellow lured gate
Hold
marks.
It. 2.
Robertson with
1.
the choice
Go
to round right or left. He will turn right.
Big flap.
Big puff
Big
at the bottom.
Traveller. Big Traveller.
You can see the breeze
Traveller.
just piling down, and then Robertson wants that Traveller up. Absolutely in the groove. You hear the frustration there that everything wasn't quite as he needed.
Mains. Big mains, big mains. Big backwind here, Jimmy.
Really need to bring that main in. That's what he's calling for.
2.
Had a huge puff and had to spill a load of the breeze just before we rounded. The crew then have to sweat that in as Måns Homberg screeches around. Great rounding from him. Super up to speed. Never say die. Heading out to the right-hand side.
Okay, boys. We got to get back in phase.
25 seconds behind, but I have a feeling he's going to chomp a little bit out of Robertson here. He's got better breeze. He's up to speed. Robertson's attack down. And you heard Robertson saying we've got to get back in phase. So if Homberg's going to stay alive in this regatta, if he's going to get a piece of Robertson, this is likely it. Here comes the attack from the right-hand side.
Copy.
Just this leg and the dash to the finish to go. We'll have another one of our quarterfinalists if it stays like this. Robertson leading across the line of Homberg out to this near exclusion zone. But we'll see him tack. Head up towards the top.
Has Homberg perhaps gained a bit, though?
Still happy?
I think he's chomped back in another 6 or 7 seconds, but he's got 25 to make up.
Attacking.
Looking back there, you can see the delta. Robertson
Go, Traveller.
still with a comfortable lead, but this racecourse has been merciless at times.
Still a bit out of phase here, I will. Yeah.
Robertson again not happy with the shift, just feeling like...
I think we should go on his line here.
He's talking to tactician Will Tiller.
What do you got coming down?
I mean, it seems
I got more left coming,
Robertson's trying to look to tack on his line just to maybe get back in phase. To me, this is just about keeping it calm. He's still a little way ahead. And that top mark is drawing ever nearer. Minimise the turns.
Where is he? 3.
Robertson electing to tack on his line, so he's not going to go to the exclusion zone. Going to play defensive.
Big tack here, boys.
Traditionally, this can be tricky.
Well, this could be a door opening for Måns, for Homberg.
Okay, Trav up now, boys.
Easing a little bit of track for the build.
This is the closest Homberg has been in a while in this match, leg 5 of 6. Homberg
I don't think we're going to lay this.
having to spend a lot of distance just to make sure he stays in touch with his opponent.
I need more cutting him, Jimmy.
You can just hear Phil starting to ask for lots of things. My feeling,
So just tacking on lay.
Homberg is munching back in now. It has cost Homberg,
Make it, boys.
or has cost Robertson an extra perhaps 8 boat lengths to get back in phase now, and that has proved costly. He is in front, but Homberg just behind him now, coming up to the final gate, the tack to the finish. Can Homberg find a way back in? Robertson definitely needs a good tack now.
Okay, got it.
Homberg really throwing the kitchen sink at him here, bringing the bow down, but Robertson starting to build. And it is the 2016 World Match Racing Tour champion that exits the mark ahead.
I got to exhale there. Holy moly, that was close. Homberg almost had it. That was his moment to catch up and perhaps pass Phil Robertson, but not to be. The world champion will move forward in this regatta into the quarterfinals. 3-1 over Måns Homberg.
Nice one, boys. Good.
They had to dig deep for that. You can hear the breaths on board. Måns Homberg really fought back in that last beat, and you know what? I think it was Phil Robertson just got the jitters up him a little bit. You know, that extra tack at the top, I think, wasn't really required. I think he just lost the confidence of Will Tiller, his tactician, just a touch. They tacked on a couple of headers, and then that actually nearly forced Robertson into a bit of a mistake.
Let's listen in on Robertson, see what their take is on the race.
Yeah. Committee getting ready for player 3, race number 2.
Well, they said a lot so far, Tucker, and maybe they're just a bit out of breath.
Probably want an interview here, eh? So the Bernoulli effect.
Thank you, Team Mirsky. Are you ready to race?
All right, well, let's go back and revisit that match, Simon. Let's rewind it all the way back to the start. Here we go.
So back they go. Robertson, 50 seconds to go. Does a beautiful job of matching the turn of Måns Homberg up, and that did a nice job of shutting the race down a little, but Homberg just enough separation, able to sort of hang back in that windward position. And again, Robertson with the tack under ley line. Måns Homberg goes for the match tack. But a great tack from him. And then down into the final seconds and across the line. It was Robertson on the inside. Slightly better of the starts, and he was able to hold out Måns Homberg.
On board with Robertson. Bit wet there. Definitely not an easy race. But the finish, of course, is what Robertson wanted to see, and we're going to go down on the water and check in with him.
So, Phil Robertson, we're down and out onto the water. Congratulations. Looked like every race you guys just got better and better.
Well, I hope that was the case because it was our practice. So, yeah, the first match race we've done since the final in Sweden, and it wasn't an easy one.
Certainly not that last beat. It looked like the shifts were just trying to play with your mind a little bit. Certainly a very tricky race course. What are the learnings from today going into tomorrow?
Yeah, it was an extremely tricky race course, and that last beat, the Bernoulli effect sort of worked against us a lot. So we've got to come a bit more tuned in tomorrow, and you know, there's not a lot you can take away from what was on today. I think it'll be a new race course tomorrow in different conditions.
And what did you make of Måns Homberg? Obviously, sort of one of the new teams, sort of breaking onto the tour. You know, sort of took you every inch of the way around that race course today.
Yeah, he is. They're no slouches, that's for sure. They're trained hard all over winter. They own a boat, so they're going to be good, and they're only going to get better. So we've kind of got to keep an eye on the young fellas because they're the ones that are putting in the big effort right now, and they're going to be the hard ones to beat all the way through the season.
Hey, Phil, it's Tucker here. Well done. That was definitely a nail-biter, particularly at the top of the racetrack. Talk us through your decision in those extra 2 tacks to get on top of Homberg, and he almost found a way back in it at the last turning mark.
Yeah, he did. The extra 2 tacks were just to try and get back in phase a little bit with him and with the shift. It was sort of all going his way that last beat, so we needed to put in an extra one just to get back in line, and in the end we just decided to lock him and pull that off. So yeah, it got a little bit closer than I wanted, but hey, a win's a win.
Excellent racing, guys. Looking forward to seeing you guys when you hit the shore, and good luck in the rest of the competition.
Nice one. Cheers, buddies. See you.
A win's a win, Simon, from the current match racing world champion. Wasn't an easy one to win, but it was definitely entertaining for Phil Robertson and crew. So now we're back into the pre-start with Torvar Mirsky and Nicklas Dackhammar. Minute and 20 seconds to go, and they're already trading blows. That's the green boat of Mirsky, and we're on board with Dackhammar in red.
Dackhammar feeling the pressure of Mirsky in the last match. Final minute. He is looking to try and find a way back in. See there, a little bit of a fisherman getting involved in the pre-start.
Yeah,
he must be wondering what is going on.
Can you imagine? He told his wife, hey, honey, I'm just going out on the harbor for a sail. Holy moly, wake-up call.
I'll take you guys on in my little tugboat.
45 seconds to go. The small boat's going for a hook on Dackhammar. I don't think he's got the speed.
Well, at the moment, Mirsky super slow, and I think Dackhammer's just going to quite effortlessly roll across the front. Final 30 seconds. Dackhammar getting into that windward position, trying to, in what looks like a sort of quite conventional match racing monohull style. And the windward to try and throw some dirty air down, but not sure it quite has the same effect. Final 14 seconds.
I think it may have. Dackhammar looking pretty strong here, do you think?
Certainly has control at the moment. I think Mirsky actually struggling to lay. That's the biggest problem he's got. He's got a little bit low on the racetrack. And Dackhammar looking to try and slow him down as much as he possibly can. Dackhammar looking to try and build. Mirsky coming in behind. But will they lay? Dackhammer's certainly around. He's now down and onto the reach. Mirsky just limping round after him. Great start from Dackhammar, leaving Mirsky really standing. It was all about the lay line. Mirsky nearly hooking the pin there. That would have been a disaster.
So Mirsky completely shut out by Dackhammar, who leads into mark number 1. The delta about 4.5 boat lengths, and Mirsky has work to do.
Dackhammar holding on to the lead. Neither boat electing to fly the Jenica across the top reach.
Tight reach. Bit of a left-hand shift.
I think it's shift driven. We've certainly seen that broad and tight without really any changing in the course axes, and a big puff on Mirsky, unable to sheet on really, can't seem to bear away, got a little stalled out. Dackhammar has just taken that all as distance down the track. So mistake there, I think, a little bit of inexperience showing in the boats perhaps. Now this is Dackhammar's chance. If he's going to really hold down one of these spots on the World Match Racing Tour, he needs to be able to take races like this home and stick him in the bank. He has a solid lead now after that mistake from Mirsky.
Dackhammar having already jibed on to port. Mirsky continues down to the course extension. Now he'll jibe. There's the leeward gates left of screen. Dackhammar, as the lead boat, of course, will choose left or right. This left-hand side seems to have been paying, and that's exactly what he likes. This time he won't make the same mistake. You recall the last leeward mark is where he gave the race to Mirsky. This match he's taking it back.
So Dackhammar continuing off to the left-hand side as we look off the balcony here at the Royal Freshwater Bay, in lead, under control, but a big split. Mirsky with his tack over on the right.
He looks soft over there in green, just looks a lot slower in the water. Dackhammar, to my eye, has better breeze off to the left-hand side here, and he's tacked to stay in touch with Mirsky. There's the exclusion zone, the yellow buoys, and he can go no further. So now on starboard, he'll check in with Mirsky's line. Now, has Mirsky gained or lost?
I think it's kind of about the same. Dackhammar holding on to that lead, and it was quite a big split. It feels to me like the weather's just starting to change a little bit. The tempo of the day just starting to wind down in terms of the amount of pressure. Wind shifting round to the left. But where before we had what felt like sort of slightly angrier clouds, slightly angrier systems sort of rolling across the course, it seems to have not stabilized, because I think the wind direction is still changing it. I think the eyes need to be firmly out of the boat as the tacticians, because what we've seen in the previous couple of hours, I'm not sure we're going to see as much of in the coming 45 minutes, and that's the sailing that these guys going to see, one of them win and one of them lose. Dackhammar out in front, Mirsky one up coming into this match. Torvar Mirsky tacks in the green soul boat to the left of screen.
Big puff of breeze on that far right side for Dackhammar.
Good intensity from Dackhammar's crew. Keeping that mainsail working. Crossing to this left-hand side of the course. One more tack for Dackhammar and then round the gate.
There's the top mark in green just in front of the frame there.
Great tack from Dackhammar. You saw nice technique with the Jenica. Someone with the unfurl, someone with the refurl. Keeping that nice and crisp. Minimum drag, maximum turning effect. Get the boat through the turn.
So right-hand mark for Dackhammar. Beautiful deploy, and he's off downwind. His opponent, Mirsky, will split and take the left-hand gate. This is for the final spot in the quarterfinals here at Match Cup Australia on Freshwater Bay. Leg 4 of 6, the fleet heading downwind for the last time.
Jibe on board Dackhammar. Mirsky just rounding the mark. Heading off downwind. Still Dackhammar holding on to that lead. And look at the crew weight on board Dackhammar. All on the centre beam, or even a little bit to leeward, just trying to keep that windward hull flying as they turn down into a final jibe, heading down towards the bottom gate.
Bit of an issue on the Jennifer sheet.
Yeah, I think they just let that sheet slip out. Looking for the furl. I think they just started that preparation a little too quickly. Called for it to come back on.
Breeze increasing at the bottom of the track. Dackhammar will take the farther gate, left-hand side as we head upwind. Right-hand side of our screen as we look downwind. Mirsky left to take the other side, and he's gained a little bit.
For sure, he's come back almost halving the distance between the two boats down that run. He's heading off to the right now. Dackhammar through the tack, and not a good tack at all. I think the Traveller has slipped right down on board Dackhammar's boat out of that tack, dropping the Traveller. A big unfurl. And now Mirsky up and through the tack. I think Dackhammar survives. Could have just been a big dump on the Traveller to try and get the boat through the turn, perhaps just before it went into irons.
I don't know. Based on the yelling that we could hear coming all the way across the race course, I'm not sure that was what Dackhammar wanted. Mirsky certainly clawing back a little bit in this match. Leg 4 of 6.
And needs to find a way back. At the moment he's down. Dackhammar's still holding on to the lead. He just needs to play this cool.
And now Mirsky will tack to stay with Dackhammar. Good breeze where Dackhammar is on the course, Simon, and here comes the tack.
So through he goes. Great tack from Dackhammar. I thought the main sheet tension might have been a tiny bit soft, but got away with that small twitch in the mainsail and actually about powering off. Time running out for Mirsky. Dackhammar has managed to extend a little bit towards the top of the race course.
Keep in mind, this is only race 2 of a best of 5, so more sailing to come here between Mirsky and Dackhammar as they continue to trade blows on Freshwater Bay. Slow tack for Dackhammar and plenty of speed for Mirsky. Could this be the door that Mirsky was finally hoping to walk through?
Only if they can lay, and I think Mirsky's got 2 more tacks. Yes, he does. We'll have the inside, but Dackhammar's going to lay. He's going to nicely cross on a touch.
Does Dackhammar? Yep, he's got it. That was close though. Mirsky, too little too late, but he's certainly clawed his way back through this match. But it is Nicklas, Dackhammar, and crew doing what they need to do to stay in this regatta. They lost the first match to Torvar Mirsky, having gotten ahead of him, and then handed it over. Well, they didn't hand this one over. Dackhammar will even it up 1-1.
Great sailing from this team to respond in that way. Dackhammar, for me, struggling for a little bit of momentum. But he's found it. Torvar Mirsky now the man that needs to respond. 1-1. Local favourite, Mirsky. He had in his last interview in his first match racing regatta on the World Tour for quite a number of years. Remember, we are live, bringing you the action here from Perth all week from 2 o'clock each day. This is the last of our Super 16 round to confirm our final quarter-finalist.
Well, Simon, let's take a look at a replay again, as we always do. Relive the match all the way back at the start.
Here, Mirsky coming in on the inside. You can hear there Mirsky calling for Dackhammar to come up, and there the signal from Dackhammar, you come up then. Mirsky goes for the luff, and Dackhammer's like, cool, bang, hard up himself. Leaves Mirsky in potentially quite a lot of bother. with 10 seconds out here, and Mirsky looking to try and bring the bow down, but he knows he's down near the ley line. Dackhammar handled that masterfully. And then just as they cross the line, Dackhammar able to really use that advantage. Brings his bow down, not the quickest bear away, but he's in and he's across. Mirsky actually doing a really nice job of hanging in, just hooking the finish, then managing to escape. Dackhammar going on to win, to level the series. 1 apiece going into the next match.
Well, now we're going to go down on the water with Dackhammar. Let's check in and see if he can hear us with Simon Shaw.
Nicklas, so bouncing back to take that win, leading right off the start. What do you think made the difference?
I think we had a pretty good race last race as well, but I mean it's shifting all the time, and once you're ahead and once you're after the other boat, so it's you have to stay on the toes here and really look up on the course to see these puffs coming down.
When you guys ended up so far down in that start, only just able to lay the pin, did you think Torvar Mirsky was even going to get a start there?
Of course, the plan was for us to get a start and him having to tack, but he made it somehow. I don't really know how he got over that line, but of course that would have been better for us, but still we got the win here, so we're really happy.
Great stuff, and you know, you talked about the course being so shifty. As the day continues to develop, what do you think you're seeing out there on the water?
I think actually the day has been pretty consistent. It has been shifted from the morning, even if it's this direction of the wind. So I mean, it's you gotta look up in the course all the time and perform excellent on the boat to win these matches today.
Thanks very much, Nicklas. 1 apiece. Good luck in your next match.
Thank you.
And there, Nicklas Dackhammar really fighting to confirm his spot here in the quarterfinals. Just 1 place still to be confirmed, and it's between these 2 boats, Nicklas Dackhammar and Torvar Mirsky. We are getting ready. We will be under starters' orders shortly here. But all of our other quarterfinalists confirmed. There's the scores as they stand. We've had all of our Super 16 rounds sailed now, apart from this one. In the first, it was Taylor Canfield up against new to the tour, Posma from the Netherlands. Canfield making short shrift of him. So every day is a school day. You're in your first M32 regatta. He advances through and he will face David Gilmore, who dispatched in a local derby Evan Walker from Sydney here in Perth, 3-1. Next up, it was Thomas that managed to dispatch Nicolai Sehested. That was our feature match earlier today, 3-0 to the local Perth sailor, sending Sehested packing back to Denmark. And then, as we just saw, Phil Robertson advancing through against Måns Homberg, 3-1. Jan Guichard overcame Sam Gilmore in a really crushing defeat in the first stages of this Super 16 round, but we're still to see who he will face. It will be the winner of this match out on the water, Dackhammar or Mirsky. Then earlier today, Williams dispatched by Matt Jerwood, who really sailed out of his skin to get rid of the 6-time world champion Ian Williams. And a much more closely fought bloodbath at the bottom of the round. Chris Steele just made it through against Jonas Waugh after contact, even a rig dropping. It is Steele that advances through to face Jerwood in what will be a very fiercely contested match. So all to play for here. We're through to all but one of the quarterfinalists confirmed, and we are out on the water getting ready to see who of these two skippers will make it through.
On board again with Nicklas Dackhammar as these two teams prepare for the 2-minute entry of the pre-start in about a minute 30 seconds to go. Tell you what, Simon, if you were a betting man, this would be a tough one to put your money on. For sure. And a good match for us to end our coverage on this afternoon. Who will it be? Nicklas Dackhammar or Torvar Mirsky? Certainly we know who the Australian fans are cheering for.
We have at least 2 matches to go before we'll see one of these guys progress through.
One minute to go to the start. Different from traditional match racing. 1 minute to the entry period, rather. Normally boats would enter from opposite ends of an upwind starting line. This time they enter on a reach, one above the committee boat, one below.
So 2:38. It's all come down to this. The drama here starting to build. Dackhammar against Mirsky, entering on that 2-minute gun. And Dackhammar bouncing back in that last match. He is sailing well. But Torvar Mirsky really with nothing to lose in his first M32 regatta, World Match Racing Tour regatta in a long time. Certainly as skipper. And he is here and he means business in local Perth waters.
So here we go. Mirsky in green, Dackhammar in red to windward, and the 2-minute signal has gone.
Dackhammar with the jibe down. Mirsky bringing the bow right up. A little bit of a flogging sail. Dackhammar will slide underneath. Mirsky's got to be careful here. I think Dackhammar will potentially even be able to come through and hook. No. Mirsky just leading the acceleration. Dackhammar very clever unfurl of the Janica there. We're on board with Dackhammar, trying to sneak in underneath the line of Mirsky.
Some new tactics in this different style of pre-start entry, but the game is still the same. Try and get a hook, try and get behind and push your opponent.
Yeah, and I don't think Mirsky has the jibe. Dackhammar looking to slow. He knows he's blocking the jibe and he wants to be able to come up and block the tack as well. So he's essing a little bit, trying to slow the boat down. And here we go, Mirsky looking for the jibe, but unable to get it in. Dackhammar brings the bow down, Mirsky up into the tag. Now can Dackhammar stop Mirsky tacking? It's a race to furl at the moment. Mirsky wins that and he's going for the turn. Dackhammar tacking underneath to try and lead this pair back to the start. I think he's going to make it. Both of their Janicas looking a bit shaky in the furl. Mirsky actually the first to start to build. Can he get over the top? Dackhammar to leeward, trying to hold out Torvar Mirsky. He's got him nicely hooked at the moment. 30 seconds to go. I'm sure we're going to see a luff from Dackhammar at some point to try and slow this game down. The boats look quite close. I think it's close enough for Dackhammar to really make this one stick. Dackhammar holding thin. I think he can just time his start here. Starting to move forward in the final 13 seconds. I think Dackhammar potentially had more option there to try and slow Mirsky, but it will be no matter. He brings the bow down. He's pointing at the start line. And Nicklas Dackhammar through the line in what will be a couple of crucial matches to see who will come away with the final quarterfinal spot. Leads off the line from Torvar Mirsky.
Well, it's clear who's got the better of these starts. Nicklas Dackhammar, beautiful job. Mirsky may have been out of the game for a little while, and it shows as Dackhammar and crew from Sweden lead into mark number 1. The delta about 4 boat lengths, and it's Mirsky up against the ropes.
So Dackhammar around small barrier of the bow, but popping right back up as the Janica sets. Mirsky around hot on his heels.
Ooh, big puff for Dackhammar, and he's off.
That's what you want when you're in the lead. Now it's down onto Mirsky.
Mirsky giving chase. Next question is who will jibe first. Mirsky looks like he's setting up Simon, you would assume that if Dackhammar jives, Mirsky will go right with him and try and get on his breeze. Here we go.
Dackhammar down into the turn, and as he called it, Mirsky looking to jibe to follow. Great jibe from both boats.
It's close.
Mirsky hanging in. Great sailing. Excellent crew work from both teams. I think that's really been a marker of this Super 16 eliminator between these two skippers. Dackhammar with the furl, I think he's going to round the left-hand mark.
And Mirsky keeping the kite up a bit longer. That could be aggressive, but it definitely gained him an extra length into the leeward gates.
Well, into that jibe. If you're going to go for one of those, if you're going to go for the jibe drop, you can leave that a little bit longer. Just do it all in the turn. Part of what makes that move so powerful. Dackhammar continuing off to the left-hand side of screen as we look, I think, into slightly better pressure, but who knows about the shift. Very difficult for us to see up here, but possible advantages to Dackhammar.
And Dackhammar will jibe now on to starboard from the left-hand side. As we look out across the water and see if Simon was right. Is there more breeze where Dackhammar is? He's in phase. Here comes a cross for the lead. Simon, who's got it? Dackhammar.
There you go. You didn't need me to call that one.
It's tough to tell sometimes with the camera angles from on shore, but there it is, no doubt. For Mirsky anyway, he'll duck behind.
He was pretty even at the bottom, perhaps a length or two. Dackhammar sailing towards better pressure, making the right decision at the bottom gate.
So this side, inshore closest to us, has been the advantage, but now Dackhammar is heading offshore away from it. So will that help Mirsky? Do you think Mirsky can get back in the game by getting to the right of Dackhammar?
I think it's about being in the right position for the puffs. I don't think at the moment, if anything, I'd say on balance the right-hand shore, as we've looked out from our camera position, has generally been favoured, if there was such a thing. But in general, it's about positioning yourself well to the puff. And Dackhammar doing a good job of that out of the bottom mark, and again, I think further capitalising on that, staying in phase with the shifts. We saw how disrupted Phil Robertson felt when he was out of phase. And then the tack from Dackhammar. Mirsky has maybe actually closed up a little bit, and for me, Dackhammar not going, it's just, yeah, he has gone to exclusion zone, pardon me. Now, when the boats come back together, where will they be? Mirsky looks slightly lower to me than Dackhammar over on that left-hand side of screen.
And the question for Dackhammar is he on ley line for the top windward gate? If so, no more tacks. If not, he will have to do one. But either way, Mirsky will have to tack again, and he has. On to port. Converging here at the top of the track for the second time.
Dackhammar not quite on lay, or if he is, no, he's not. He's tacking around this right-hand mark and a little down pressure for his tack, but
is Mirsky on ley line?
I think Mirsky should lay. I think they're about on the same line. As Dackhammar rounds, allowed to hit the marks in match racing, tour racing.
Allowed to plow the bows too. Dackhammar off downwind, and there's the difference. Mirsky has to tack.
Yeah, Mirsky didn't lay. And that difference is going to cost him. Dackhammar out in front. Torvar Mirsky needs to respond here. At the moment, it's Nicklas. Dackhammar really has the advantage. Mirsky winning his group, coming into this Super 16 eliminator. Dackhammar actually not in particularly good finish position after the fleet race. So Mirsky to form should have been the favourite coming into this. But at the moment it is all Nicklas Dackhammar.
Big left-hand shift on this run. Both boats were on starboard. Mirsky has just jibed to get down to Dackhammar's line. Dackhammar easily leads. One final jibe into the leeward gates.
Look at that. Nicklas Dackhammar has done an excellent job. Just holding on to this lead. Continuing to try and make it extend as much as he possibly can.
Remember Dackhammar having jibed and gone to the other mark in race 1. It gave it to Mirsky. Since then, he has always rounded this side, and it's paid off for him.
I think it's just that natural approach into the bottom mark. I think he's realised kind of just got to sail what's in front of you.
The way this course is laid out, Simon, it's one less jibe if you're always going to choose the left gate, and that helps. I guess the point being, you've really got to want the right gate for a reason if you're going to do that extra jibe. Dackhammar did not. He protects the left side, heading back upwind here, left side of screen. And Mirsky in green will head all the way off to the right. That is his only opportunity to gain leverage away from his opponent, get a bit of different breeze on the course. I don't think that's going to happen.
So across they come, Mirsky out in front. Copy, cancel. Dackhammar is out in front. It's been a long day of race commentary here. You have to forgive us back home.
A little conversation with yourself there. Somewhat of a slow tack in Dackhammar. Shouldn't say that, that's a bit negative. It was pretty good acceleration now out of it, but Mirsky has closed the gauge just a little bit. Certainly not enough to threaten Dackhammar, but then again, we've seen a lot of things happen towards the end of the beat in a lot of these races. So you can never rule anybody out until they cross the finish line.
As we look at the racing now, Mirsky has broken back a little bit. Dackhammar is closing down to his line. Remember, Dackhammar is a tack ahead, so as bad as it looks for Dackhammar, but Mirsky is closed up.
Now, is he within striking distance as we approach the top mark for the last time? You'll see Dackhammar come into frame there, and the game is a lot closer.
Mirsky breaking through his dirty air now. Where are they on ley line? It's going to get a lot closer as we come up to the top of this beat. I think they're not laying the gate, so they will have to do a tack. Dackhammar does have the control. He can time his tack, and Mirsky will follow. Dackhammar won't rush this. He'll certainly make sure he's onto the ley line before he tacks. And up they go into the turn. Dackhammar tacks, needs to make this one count. It needs to be good. Much more of an unfurl from Mirsky, and he starts to build a little bit quicker. Can he turn that into an advantage? He's going for the inside. Now can he break in? Dackhammar needs to respond. Mirsky coming in, looking for the hook. Absolutely nothing to pick between these two boats as Dackhammar leads the pair in. Mirsky did an excellent job of that tack, diving for the inside, but it is Dackhammar that leads around. Mirsky unable to strike back. And they're on the final dash to the finish, and it is Torvar Mirsky behind. Nicklas Dackhammar coming in with the lead to the finish.
Dackhammar may have fallen asleep at the wheel, but he woke up just in time. An incredible match right to the finish, and he earns it. Dackhammar takes one more race and goes 2 up over Torvar Mirsky. I tell you, just when we think it's over, Simon, always at the top of the track, that's when the door opens up. That's when the action just often gets the most exciting on these race courses, the final 60 seconds.
Well, that 60 seconds is critical. Some of that is the defending boat just leaving nothing to chance and burning distance to make sure they get their positioning absolutely bang on. But in that instance there, you know, Dackhammar was under pressure.
Well, once again, Simon, let's relive the match. We'll go all the way into the pre-start. We're 1:10 to the gun. Here we go.
So on half speed, it's Mirsky looking for that jibe, and it just wasn't there. Dackhammar blocked that off. I think he always had it blocked off. And then up. Dackhammar looking to block this off again, back the other way. And then through the tack. So final 45 seconds. Mirsky looking to try and roll over the top of Dackhammar, but he really had the measure of this the whole way through. And then down and through the line. And then into the top. It was Nicklas Dackhammar still ahead around the top. And then with the unfurl, just nicely keeping control of the match. A little bit of spray. Dackhammar's crew just sheeting on hard. And then this really, that critical move at the bottom through the tack. And there, the really early unfurl from Torvar. He wanted to get a big tack in there, get his bow down, used extra Jenica to do so. And then as he dived in at the bottom, looking to try and get a hook, it's a tricky move, but if Dackhammar's tack had been a couple of inches worse, perhaps Mirsky would have been able to come in there and got a little bit of a hook.
If ever there was an opportunity for him to get back into this match, that was it. Incredibly close, but Dackhammar holds on for the win. Kept you guessing, though, right to the end. So we've got Nicklas Dackhammar down on the water, ready for an interview, and I definitely want to hear about that as well, Simon. See what he has to say about it.
So Nicklas Dackhammar, we're coming out to you on the water now, and another win. Congratulations, mate.
Yeah, thank you.
I believe we've got Dackhammar out there. Nicklas, can you hear us out there?
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, fantastic race, mate. You kept us guessing right to the end. First of all, tell us what Mirsky, give us an idea of him as a competitor. He definitely is not making it easy on you.
I mean, that crew and Mirsky together, they are top level sailors, all of them, and we knew in the beginning of this day it's going to be tough all day, and as you say, it's up and down all the time, and now it's 2-1 to us, so we're going to still press it and hope for the third win.
Well, you made that final race look easy, except the last turning mark at the top there when it looked like the door opened for Mirsky. Talk us through that.
Oh, but I mean, I think we had pretty much control over him. Maybe at the very last end there when we made the tack, we were supposed to actually block him, so he had no chance to go under us, and that maybe was a little bit of a mistake there. But yeah, we held him behind us and through the finish line, and that was what it counts.
Well, you're right. A win is a win, and I know you're looking for one more. Good luck to you and your crew in this final match.
Very much.
So there we have it from Nicklas Dackhammar. Pretty confident, at least more confident than we were watching at that move at the top mark there.
Now we've got the man of the moment, Steve Thomas, up here in the commentary position, and as these guys jostle around and get ready to get out onto the water, let's just through 3 in a row. Got to be pleased with that.
Hey, Shawzy. Yeah, very pleased. Boys are sailing well, and like Dackhammar said, it's quite tricky out there, and we were just lucky that it came our way.
And when we were on the shore, we had a little bit of a chat before you went out. A little bit nervous in the morning. I mean, talk us through, like, going in. These are critical races in a professional context, right? How did you feel kind of going out onto the water today?
Yeah, the knockout format of this regatta does make it a fair bit more nervous for the day, because every race counts, and it's not like the old round robin where you can afford to drop one or here or there. For us, as a team, we are always focused on just making sure we sail as well as we can on the water, and we don't want to think about the end result, although you can't help it sometimes, especially when people come up to you and say, oh, we have you as a 3-0, and all of a sudden it adds pressure. You know.
Yeah, I know. That's going to be me, isn't it? It's just being unhelpful, but you know, it does feel a little bit like, and the results sheet sort of says it all. You know, a lot of the teams that are sort of based here, have access to the boats, have progressed well, have been strong around the racecourse compared to some of the sort of in inverted commas sort of bigger, more established teams.
Yeah, I think, you know, time in the boats is invaluable. They're not as straightforward to sail as they might look. You know, tacking is quite tricky, and you know, the manoeuvres are, although simple in mechanics, can be, you know, quite dynamic on the water when your skipper says all of a sudden we're going right turn and everyone's set up for a left turn. So, you know, time on the water definitely always helps. And, you know, for our team, we were lucky to have the 3 days before this regatta to get that time on the water. You know, we're not a Perth-based team anymore. We're Sydney-based, but we sail under the Royal Perth banner. And, you know, there are no cats over in Sydney for us to train on, so we use every moment we can out there to get some practice.
And I haven't got a score sheet in front of me. Do you know who you're sailing in the quarterfinal?
I believe it's Phil Robertson.
Okay, so yeah, I think it is. I'm from memory now, jumping back into my head. And you know, we just watched him, you know, sailing through and sort of perhaps building his performance through his quarterfinal to looking pretty solid. I think it would be fair to say in his last match. You know, he obviously won in 2016. You know, not the easiest match. I mean, that would be fair.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, Phil's team are, you know, at the top of their game in the GCs and also from last season in the M32. So, you know, they understand cat sailing through and through, and Phil, you know, a long-time match racer of the tour. And so, you know, I don't think any team would ever go up against Phil thinking they're a sure win. And you know, we're happy with how we're sailing the boat. We think we can take it to him. But at the same time, you know, we're under no illusions of how tough it will be.
And you've just been watching, we've got the final 40 seconds before they enter. You've been, I've noticed, just keeping a bit of an eye on this match. You know, another Perth-based sailor, Torvar Mirsky. Great to see him back in this competition.
Yeah, Torvar's an excellent sailor. I sailed last season with Torvar on the Traveller, and you know, we learn a lot from each other. And I think at one point last season we talked about Torvar taking the helm and I doing the Traveller, but the rules didn't allow for it, so we sort of stuck out the season. And there was a bit of chat with maybe me taking on the Traveller this season, but, you know, after talking to various people, we decided I'd stay with it.
Well, I think that sounded like the right decision, looking at how your performance came into here. And any words of advice in the final few seconds for Torvar?
I think, you know, watching Torvar's last two pre-starts, something he's very strong at is pre-starting, and he hasn't come away as strong as he normally would. So I think he'll be pushing it a little harder in this one, making sure he is that lead boat to the first mark.
Well, Stephen, let's get your analytics as we go through this race. Torvar Mirsky needing to win this one to stay in it. Minute 30 to go, and Simon, we're in the pre-start. Dackhammar in red, Mirsky in green.
Dackhammar leading pair down. Both Jennikers out. The wind has dropped a little bit, and they're using that extra power and horsepower to sort of extend away, try and make sure they've got room to jibe and stay separated as Dackhammar turns back. Coming up for 1 minute to go. Dackhammar, I think, quite deep in the pre-start area. Mirsky looking, I think, to try and separate to windward before he then comes through the tack. Position to soft push back towards the start line. Mirsky will get right up to speed, I'm sure, almost straight away. Head right back towards Dackhammar. Try and dial him down towards that ley line. In comes Mirsky with plenty of pace. Dackhammar slightly slow to respond. Mirsky looking to try and get the hook. He's charging for the underneath. Unable to get it, just bring the bow back up. Dackhammar doing a nice job of the respond. 27 seconds to go. Mirsky still faster now, perhaps threatening the roll in the windward position. A long way round, but 20 seconds. They're a long way back from the line. Mirsky starting to move forward with Dackhammar underneath. Dackhammar trying to close the gauge between the two boats, trying to get the luff in on Mirsky, but I think Mirsky's going to get around the top. Dackhammar bringing the bow up, but final few seconds. Mirsky starting to build, matching Dackhammar for space. They're going to be down and across the line. Mirsky leaving the Jenica down. A big puff of breeze coming in. Big change in the conditions as Mirsky in the windward position, I think, just has the advantage, but Dackhammar is hanging in on the inside.
Now, can he make it stick? Can he hang in there on the inside all the way into mark number 1, or will he get rolled by Mirsky to windward? Mirsky, of course, trying to do just that. I'm not sure he's got it, though. Dackhammar will round inside and just ahead.
And he's looking to continue. Look, Nicklas Dackhammar has Mirsky overlapped, and then Mirsky with the unfurl, and actually leading Dackhammar, who's turning down. I'm not sure that crew maneuver ran exactly to plan, unfurling after the jibe.
Yeah, it looks like he bore away a little early there, which let Torvar come down before the boundary and actually do a straight deploy. And now Torvar running the whole length of the boundary there will have a 1 jibe in, and Dackhammar now has to do that extra manoeuvre, which I think looks like will put Torvar in front.
Well, it's interesting. I expected Dackhammar to keep Mirsky under more pressure there if he was going to try that strategy. Mirsky with the jibe. Dackhammar is in good pressure. And it is nice and fast through the turn, down to the bottom gate. But it's Torvar Mirsky that is bursting back. And this final Super 16 matchup is really coming alive. Mirsky leading around the bottom gate, overcoming Dackhammar. Made a bit of a mistake in the luff and the jibe.
Yeah, big turn of events there. Dackhammar, it looks as though yet again gave the race away, or rather Mirsky found his moment and took advantage of it at the top of the track there. And he rounded the right-hand gate looking upwind, left-hand side as we look at on our screen. So Mirsky comfortably in control, and it looks as though more breeze is headed his way.
It's a nice puff rolling down, and Mirsky's beautifully placed underneath it just to sail around the outside. Should lift him up a little as he tracks back across towards Dackhammar.
Now, can Dackhammar catch back up and seal the deal in 3, or will Mirsky live to stay in this regatta with a win and force a deciding 5th match? There's the cross. Mirsky comfortably ahead.
Just coming to his line now, so that is an extension to Mirsky. Having the confidence just to extend out to those ley lines. For me, the wind does feel like it's moved around to the right a little in the last 30 or 40 seconds. That could provide Dackhammar, if it continues to swing, a bit of an option on this right-hand side.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Simon. You're the expert, but having watched these races now, it seems to me that Dackhammar tends to do too much. He sort of overdoes things, and that's when the door opens for Mirsky. You can come in any time on that.
I don't know. I wasn't sure what to say. I mean,
Stephen?
I don't know if Steve's got anything for you.
Yeah, maybe you're right. In that instance, at the reach mark, I think he had the right manoeuvre. He just maybe was a bit nervous and went into it too early. He really needed to force Torvar right into that 2 boat length boundary zone and then do the manoeuvre so that Torvar was too tight to be able to run down the ley line. But, you know, this course is pretty shifty, and I wouldn't be surprised if one bad tack would put the boats back together.
There we go. Positive spin on the match. And definitely puts pressure on Mirsky.
Little flap of the main there for Mirsky. Managed to make that recover. That's a little bit more main sheet tension in the tack now, bringing his bow down. It has gone very light at the top of the course. Mirsky now coming in. You can see them having to sheet everything on much harder.
I think
into the top gate.
The shift went a little to Dackhammar's way, but better tacks from Mirsky has kept him in the lead there quite comfortably.
Mirsky rounding the offshore left-hand windward gate and heading back downwind. In control of the match. Already into a jibe behind Dackhammar, who will round the opposite gate and follow suit.
I mean, this is starting to gear up for what will be an incredible final match.
Almost
a bit of a bow down from Dackhammar. I thought maybe that mark was going to follow him just for a second, but he's managed to leave it back in at the top.
And as you mentioned earlier, Simon, in the show, you can hit these marks in the World Match Racing Tour rules. You just can't drag them downwind with you. Well, you can actually, but it's not that fast. Mirsky looking strong, looking solid, and continuing to gain downwind.
Mirsky under control. He has managed to make this lead build and build. And it's been a bit of game of kind of someone bringing something new to the table and then the other sailor having to respond and doing so. You know, in the last match, I felt it was really Dackhammar that needed to pull something out the bag to sort of swing back a punch on Mirsky, which he actually did very successfully. And now it was Torvar Mirsky on the ropes. And he's done an excellent job to not just take the lead, but to carry on, build and extend it as he's gone around the course, and looks like the champion. It will now fall to Dackhammar, if this result stands, to do it again into the last match.
Just heard some yelling from Dackhammar's boat, and again an issue with the Jenniker sheet. I don't know if you saw it in the background there. It was flapping sort of uncontrollably, only just now they got it after a few choice words in Swedish. Under control, rounding the opposite mark, of course, and heading left of screen, back upwind, chasing Mirsky, 19 seconds behind. So as you say, Simon, if things stay as they are, we'll be forced into a fifth, an exciting deciding match. Each of these two teams having exchanged blows off of one another. This is a pretty big split, though. If Dackhammar's going to reel Mirsky in, this would be one of his few opportunities left as the two teams converge. Mirsky crossing ahead. What will he do? Continue to the left. All the way into the boundary. Now he sets up for a tack to stay with Dackhammar. At least one more tack to go. At the top of the track as Mirsky defends his lead.
So this is our final match, or final match-up in the Super 16 round, looking for our final quarter-finalist. All to play for as we move forward in this real bloodbath of a round. 8 skippers going home. And we're watching Torvar Mirsky in what was a must-win match for him to stay in the competition, out in front against Nicklas Dackhammar. Just to beat up to the top marks to go. Torvar Mirsky seems to be quite quick to unfurl his Jenica in the tacks, Steve, as we're watching them to come through to try and blow that bow through. Do you want to just talk us through, like, just the finesse of that? We know why they're doing it. It's to try and blow the bow down out of the tack, but like just the timing when you're using it and exactly how it goes.
Yeah, for our team, we deploy when we want to have a safe attack. We don't actually believe it's the fastest way of tacking. Obviously, pulling out the Jenica is draggy, and but if you're worried that the bow's not going to get through the wind comfortably, then deploying it can make sure that the bow does come right down, and therefore you can accelerate.
Thank you, Stephen. We'll come back to that. But first, the finish. Torvar Mirsky has evened it up 2-all over Nicklas Dackhammar.
So there we go, Steve. Yeah, just carry on. So as they're coming through the tack, we may even try and bring up a bit of a replay of attack, and we could maybe just talk it through. Can we do that in the studio? Can we get a Torvar Mirsky tack?
There's Dackhammar limping towards the finish. At least 40 seconds behind, I'm guessing.
And Dackhammar really has to respond now. 2 apiece. Going to go to a must-win final match between these two skippers, and we'll be back to you with that really shortly.
So the teams will take a short break before setting up for one final deciding match. This the last team to move into the quarterfinals. So as you mentioned, Simon, we've got Stephen Thomas here in the studio. He was starting to tell us about the tacks, and we've got one queued up to analyze.
Yeah, so you'll notice as they go into the tack, they've sent someone down to leeward ready to deploy before they actually start turning. And then that means that as soon as the bow's through the wind, the Jenica starts working to bring the bow away. And from there, it's just a timing of when the crew moves up and when the skipper's happy, they've got good flow over the rudder to be able to steer to the course.
And talk us through the main sheet in that move. Let's just rewind. We'll just let that kind of play through again.
So another really important part of the tacking is not letting the main flap too much. Like if the battens just flop from one side to the other, that's a good tack. If they do a double flop, that's all drag and that slows you down. So as you go in, you'll see the main sheet guy doing big pulls to try and hold the leech tight, and then when it does pop, they're trying to exhaust the sail to help get the bow down and accelerate.
And what about the dagger boards in this tack? When do you want that leeward dagger board down? You can see they're doing it probably just as their eye through the bow through the wind. Do you guys have a technique for that?
To be honest, we do. I don't know what it is. That's Ben's department.
That is what I'm talking about. That's good skipper talk.
That was one of the most honest answers I've ever heard, actually, from somebody who's sailed so well this week.
That's the benefit of having really good sailors front to back on a boat.
Here's another look at attack. And
why don't we ask Torvar out there?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll get the same answer.
We've actually got Torvar ready with an interview down on the water, so we can ask him ourselves. Let's check in with Torvar Mirsky, the winner of the last match, to even it up.
So Torvar Mirsky, we're down with you. You came into that match, you needed to respond, you responded emphatically. You must be confidence high coming into this must-win second match.
Yeah, I think our team's been sailing pretty well, actually, in all of the races with our boat handling. So just trying to piece it together. We're still a new team, so that's our excuse, I think, and hopefully we can piece this next one together.
Now, Torvar, we were actually just watching a bit of a slow-motion replay of a couple of your tacks, and we've got Steve Thomas in the studio, and we were discussing when the boards go down and at what point in the tack you choose to put the boards down, and he challenged you that you wouldn't know when that was or what your secret technique was. So yeah, we don't know if you've got any response to that.
Yeah, definitely these guys know what to do, and I think our boards change a little bit depending on who's running across when, but not maybe the perfect timing always, but the guys are certainly nailing these tacks here, and we feel pretty good in that area.
It certainly looks like you're using the Jenica to just ensure you definitely get the bow down out of each one. Is that something you guys have practiced?
We actually haven't practiced that much with the full mainsail up pressure, which it is now. So the Jenica back is a bit new to us, actually, but the guys are capable, and I feel our tacks are working pretty good.
Great stuff. Well, listen, 2 apiece, and just like yesterday, we've got a big Australian interest in the final match, which is must win at the end of the day. The lawn's still packed here at the Royal Freshwater Bay Yacht Club, and there's a lot of people cheering you on. So good luck. I think we're looking forward to the spectacle.
Thanks, Josie. We are too.
He seems pretty relaxed considering the amount of pressure that's on this next match, Simon.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. You know, it's nice to be able to share a bit of a joke in perhaps a nice leveler for everybody out there on the water. Dackhammar, I know, for me, I think it always feels like if you've won that race before going into that the next knockout, you just have a little bit of an edge. You're just a little bit more upbeat, feeling like the momentum's with you. I don't know, Steve, if you've got any feelings on that.
Every time you win a race, it is a little confidence booster, especially when you sail the way Torvar did then. He just, had good boat handling and extended his lead little bit by little bit around the track. Yeah,
you're right. I think sometimes it's not if you win, it's like how you win. And for me, Torvar there, he went out, he responded well he exploited every opportunity, and he just extended, he sailed fast and clean, and you know, went on to what was a very dominant win. And Dackhammer's going to be looking at that and going, right, into this pre-start, I'm going to have to give this everything. And you know, I think we may well see some fireworks in this pre-start. Both teams, I think, are going to be absolutely grinding at each other as we come into the next match.
Well, you'd have to. I mean, think of the amount of pressure. Think of what's at stake. This is not a walkover like Stevens' races were. He just blew Nicklas or Nicolai Sehested out of the water there pretty impressively. But these two tied on points, and the crowd on shore at the Royal Freshwater Bay Yacht Club will be excited to see who will win, particularly if it's Mirsky, of course, the local team. But he's got his work cut out for him in Nicklas Dackhammar. Sudden death, one more match to come here on Freshwater Bay in Perth, Australia. So while we wait for the start of the next and final match to determine who will go into the quarterfinals, we'd like to remind you again of all the various ways you can watch the 2017 World Match Racing Tour.
Down and into the jibe, both boats playing through. We'll see the deploys as they come out of the jibe. Look, and it's a blue penalty. Wow.
Action-packed day here, and we have our quarter-finalists. I'll tell you what, this is the end of what has been another spectacular day here in Perth, and all eyes are now out onto the racecourse because you know what's coming? It is a final Southern Death match. We are looking at Mirsky and Nicklas Dackhammar, and only one of them is going to progress through first blood.
All right, Simon, you've told me many times you hate it when I do this, which all the more reason I think it'd be entertaining to do so. Who's your money on? Who are you going to pick? If you had to pick one, I'll take the other. I don't care who it is. This is for a drink after the TV show on you.
Well, it depends who wins, right?
Well, not necessarily.
I'm not going to fall for that. But what I will say is that, you know what, I think probably watching that, we just talked about that momentum coming through that final match. You know, for me, I've been really impressed with how Nicklas Dackhammer's sailed here. Actually, through the qualifying round, he didn't really turn up. And for me, this is actually Nicklas Dackhammar at his best that I've seen him sail, which is why I think this is been such a good match. You know, we've watched, you know, even the likes of Ian Williams when they've been a little bit down, just going out 3-0, you know, and we've watched this one go all the way to 2-2. So this is Nicklas Dackhammar at its best, and I think Torvar's relaxed and sailing really well and very, very experienced as a sort of competitor. And I think that's why this has been so closely fought. But for me, the momentum that he's taken out of the last match, and perhaps the small home advantage that Mirsky has, I think potentially would see him take this. I think Dackhammar might have an edge in the start. He has done through this match. Mirsky doesn't seem to be firing there, but just the momentum sailing. I think the sort of up breeze, kind of high speed sailing that Mirsky's kind of brought to the table. Just maybe he has a small edge, but this is really anyone's game, and I think the guy that's going to win is the one that somehow holds his head in the right place coming into this final match.
I got to hand it to you, Simon Shaw. After 50 seconds of talking, not picking one team at all, you could be a politician.
I picked Mirsky.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, you gave them both ample credit and well deserved. So you picked Mirsky. I tend to think that you're right as far as the momentum from the last race.
No, you're not allowed to say I'm right after that.
However, I like to be a bit risky, and I'm going to match you with Dackhammar. So here we go. You've got Mirsky, I've got Dackhammar, and they've got one more race to determine who will move on into the quarterfinals. There's the signal boat, and here comes the pre-start timing momentarily.
Well, we are getting to get underway. I think Tolstrom, Principal Race Officer, Craig Mitchell, director of the World Match Racing Tour.
There it is. 4 minutes, the warning signal. 2 minutes to the pre-start entry. And this will be a big match, as we've mentioned. Will it be the hometown hero representing Australia, Torvar Mirsky, or one of the top M32 sailors in the world from Sweden, Nicklas Dackhammar? We will know in about 15 minutes as we get underway in the final match here, tied at 2-all. 7 of the 8 quarterfinalists have been decided. And this will be for the 8th spot to determine who will face Jan Guichard as we move on to the top 8 tomorrow. 3 minutes, 10 seconds to go to the entry. Again, Mirsky in the green boat, back of the foreground of your screen there, looking from on board the red boat of Nicklas Dackhammar.
So listen, we've got a minute to go before pre-start will be properly underway, but just joining us up in the commentary booth, we have yet another famous skipper, Nicolai Sehested. Welcome, Nicolai. I'm sorry it's not under slightly different circumstances. Not quite the match you were hoping for in the Super 16 round.
No, it was a tough match for sure, but I think we're pretty settled. We got beaten fair and square. We didn't have enough to beat him, and we need to go practicing it better. There wasn't really any in it. It was fair and square.
Pretty admirable. Ian Williams said the same thing about it, and he's a world champion many times over. You guys are quite generous staring down defeat. However, it's a long year. I know we're going to see a lot more of you.
Hey, listen, I think you're being a bit unfair to yourself. I thought it was a pretty evenly contested match. There was something in the course today. I think you were fast. It wasn't. Ian Williams got driven over by a truck. He was slow. He lost the starts. He got penalties.
He can hear you too.
Oh,
He's still here.
But you actually sell pretty well. Not the same thing.
Yeah, I think our strength is the starts and the match racing. I mean, we won all our starts, but you need to be fast around the course and you need to be smooth, and we need more hours as a team in these boats before we can get there. So I still think it was a fair square beat up, and we'll take it, and we'll be back. It's a long season.
Great stuff. Well, listen, Nicklas, Nicolai, I hope you can stay with us for this match, and we've been watching these two, and this has been a really even contest.
And we're back into it. This will be the final match between Dackhammar and Mirsky. As you can see, 1:20 to the start. We're into the pre-start already. Simon Shaw, here we go.
Well, we've seen a couple of little bits of mono-hull match racing tactics creeping in to the pre-starts here. And there again, the dead downwind. Both boats trying to catch each other out, but Dackhammar with the tack. Mirsky extending off to the right-hand side and now down and into the turn. We're still a little way off the ley line, down for the pin, so nice positioning, I think, for Dackhammar. Should be able to control the lead back. Now, there's the pin. It's about even positionally. Torvar Mirsky trying to bring the bow down. Dackhammar essing down to try and waste some speed. Mirsky needs to keep the speed on, drive Dackhammar back to the start as Dackhammar comes up thin. Mirsky continuing to roll forward. Plenty of gauge between the boats for Mirsky to bear off into. Perhaps looking for the start above. Final 20 seconds, Dackhammar. Still thin, trying to close up the gauge. Final 15 seconds. Mirsky starting to move forward now. For me, perhaps the aggressor in this start. Dackhammar now bringing the bow down. Can he respond? It'll need to be a good build from Dackhammar. Mirsky's on the move. He's starting to roll across the top, and in the final 3 seconds, they're off and underway. And it is Torvar Mirsky at the top of the line, which I think's come away with the better of the two starts. Fast and up to speed, screeching across the top, and already starting to move around the front of Nicklas Dackhammar. And when the pressure came on, it was Mirsky that has responded first, and I think is going to lead around this first mark.
Impressive start from Torvar Mirsky. It was so close, so well timed. My eyes immediately went to the signal boat, and no yellow flag, all clear. Mirsky in the lead at Mark 1.
So down and round, and Janika's deployed. Dackhammar needs to find something. Not such a good sheet on from Dackhammar. Torvar up and flying the hull that little bit quicker. And Nicolai, how critical is that bear away, and how easy is it to control the heel angle as the boats come around that mark?
It's one of the most important parts of the race, because if you get low and fast here, you can choose whatever gate you want further down, and there's not going to be any risk of roll. So you know, it's really critical to get that sheet on and get low in the box. Otherwise, you are already under the back foot. And yeah, he did a good job there, Torvar. He can choose whatever he wants from now on.
And if you keep that power on the boat and you just have that windward hold just kissing, you can get down. And, you know, Torvar Mirsky, it doesn't look like a big difference, but you look at the extension now, down and onto the lay line, through the jibe, pointing at that left-hand gate as we look downwind. And Mirsky has the control now.
Very strong performance early on for Torvar Mirsky, doing everything right at the bottom of the track. And he'll round the right-hand mark as we look upwind, head to our left of screen. And the choice for Dackhammar to split or follow behind is answered. He'll follow behind and also head upwind behind Mirsky to the right-hand side.
Now he had to just scallop down for that rounding. I wonder if the jibe drop was on, he could have generated a split. Mirsky to this near side, to the exclusion zone. Dackhammar will follow, but not a lot of water, not a lot of sea room really for him to get any kind of a leverage. And there the difference. Dackhammar perhaps 10, 11 lengths behind.
You can feel the tension on board Dackhammar's boat. You tend to hear a lot more yelling when he's behind than when he's ahead.
Getting near that parrot end of the day. I don't know if you viewers can hear that at home, but
he's going to steal the show. Every day at about this time, it sounds like a baby being stepped on. That bird is somewhere.
So lead Mirsky in this critical match in home waters on his return to the World Match Racing Tour. Out in front, leading this pair out to the left-hand side of the racecourse now. Through the tack. Actually not such a great tack for Mirsky. I wonder if he started to get involved with where the boards were. But no, he's responded.
Either way, you are right, Simon. That will help Dackhammar a little bit. As both boats on port. Head inshore towards us. Different angle, though. The green boat pointing higher towards the next mark. Dackhammar lower as he approaches the exclusion zone, the boundary for the tack.
Again, a smaller margin now deployed in the tack just to ensure the bow comes through. But it's all Torvar Mirsky at the moment. A little streakier the course. Nicolai, I don't know if we can see out from our vantage point here. It's been sort of patchy all day. I felt like the last race it maybe stabilized a little from what we'd seen before, but
we sort of saw, you know, in our race the sides was both strongs at different times. You know, when the breeze came in, it was really righty, and you got away with going where Mirsky is right now. But when the breeze wasn't quite in, you had to go all the way out to the left side where Dackhammar is heading now. So, but yeah, it looks a bit more stable now. But I think Mirsky is in a really good position here. He's going to go straight in, and it'll be really, really hard for Dackhammar to come back at this one.
Well, Mirsky certainly will be planning to lay that left-hand mark. Around he goes. I just thought it might have been a tiny bit thin, but he's made it around. Bears away onto the final downwind.
He got a little bit slow at the top of the track there. Dackhammar trying to reel him in. Dackhammar will bear away and take the opposite mark. Mirsky had to tack, so
he certainly closed up a little. Tucko, for me.
And this is your man. This is your pick.
Well, I'm certainly winning the beer competition at the moment.
Never say never, though. Not in this game, for sure. Now both boats on starboard heading downwind. Mirsky above and ahead. Dackhammar behind and to leeward. But with a straighter angle into the leeward gates, Mirsky will have to jibe again. Not sure if Dackhammar will.
Now
the halfway point.
At this point, Mirsky has... Well, he doesn't really have... I was about to try and ask you a question about which gate he's going to go to. He hasn't really got a choice. He'll be one and in, I'm sure, for the left hand.
Yeah, I think he'll be left-hand turn unless Dackhammar is going to lay right turn. He could jibe in front of him, but I'm 90% sure he's going to go left turn and then do an early tag instead and follow Dackhammar to the left if Dackhammar can lay, but doesn't look like he can though, so he's going to be same way as well.
Well, there's nothing better than leading and knowing that your competitor pretty much has to follow or lose distance. And that's the position Mirsky finds himself as he rounds the final bottom gate. This is our final match of this Super 16 round, and my goodness, we've been entertained. We've seen the departure of Ian Williams, dispatched by local sailor. And we've seen Nicolai Sehested sat with us. Unfortunately, leave the competition by Steve Thomas. Robertson got rid of Homberg. Now Mirsky has Nicklas Dackhammar on the ropes. Young Guichard also through against Sam Gilmore. And then Chris Steele in what was actually a very close match in the end with Jonas Farah advancing through into the quarterfinals. Mirsky still out in front. The Sol Skis boat, overall tour sponsor, manufacturer of high technology, beautiful skis, trying to use innovative materials in new ways to try and make cooler, I should imagine, comparatively expensive skis. I don't know, Nicolai, if they've offered you a set as a tour card holder.
I'll take them straight away.
I did hear there were actually someone had flown a load of skis down to Perth to give away to all the skippers, and it just kind of crossed my mind that the guy in customs at the airport would just be looking at the guy, real strange, you know. Buddy, do you realise it's kind of the summer and there's
downhill skiing?
Not only, there aren't even any hills here. Even if we had a freak Arctic blizzard, I'm looking around and where are the mountains? I mean, Australia's just kind of flat.
I think they should leave him in Europe and then we'll pick him up when we go there for the next event. It'll be snowy there anyways at that time.
Good stuff. Well, we'll see if these free skis ever materialise. I'm hoping for a set for the commentators as well. So if you're listening, Mr. Sol Skis, you know where to find us.
What size?
Well, I don't know. To be honest,
doesn't matter.
The right
you'll
size.
Take them.
Just go your height of yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how you'll take them.
Nicolai's obviously a more seasoned skier than I am. He's already sizing me up.
Mirsky in control, back in the match. Dackhammar running out of time, running out of options to move on in this regatta or join us in the commentary booth. Oh, nobody wants to do that,
little
right?
Subtle digs on Nicolai. Come on, Tucker.
No, it's all right. We enjoy it. Your loss is our gain.
It's good.
But there's a reason you're out there and we're up here, Simon. Here's Mirsky, the final turn to head for home in front of the hometown fans. This is what he's practiced for.
And what a moment for him, actually. You know, in his first World Match Racing Tour regatta, he's come back in. He's, you know, put himself out there, straight head on the line. Very brave move, just straight back on the helm in his first regatta, and he will qualify through. Torvar Mirsky.
And there it is. It took all 5 matches, and it was certainly hard fought. But Torvar Mirsky takes Dackhammar and moves into the final spot of the quarterfinals here at Match Cup Australia. Impressive.
I mean, he really enjoyed that. Look at that. You can see the smile on his face. He's trying to hold it back, trying to play it all cool, but he is real stoked.
Pressure's off, at least for now.
So Mirsky through. And you know what? Nicklas Dackhammar, for me, saying a little bit, I don't want to say back to his best because he's just been knocked out. That feels perhaps, you know, I don't want to be patronising, but he sailed really well in this match. I think Torvar really showed up, and Dackhammar took him all the way. And we have occasionally seen Dackhammar slightly collapse when he's come under pressure. And you know what? He came out here today and he responded twice. Torvar Mirsky put him under pressure and he just bounced right back. Time again and again. And, you know, I hope that's sign of more things to come from him. You know, a strong performance. And remember, this is, you know, the first regatta of the year, and we have talked about how some of perhaps the European teams haven't had the practice of others. And he has been sailing really, really well. So, excellent sailing, you know, Nicklas, and, you know, hopefully we'll be able to get some words from him at some stage today.
Well, he certainly made Mirsky work for it. Let's go back and relive that race all the way into the pre-start. Here we go.
So Mirsky, for me, always having that separation in the pre-start, able to use that to sort of build down towards Dackhammar in the pre-start. Final 10 seconds, really starting to move. perhaps pulling the trigger a tiny bit early, but banging through the line, absolutely inch perfect. A little bit of risk.
Very close. Made a big difference, though.
Here we can see Backstrom there.
Ooh.
Just losing his footing and smashing his head into the boom.
There's a reason they wear helmets in this game.
And there, just the replays running across and oh dear.
Now I saw it. The slow motion just makes it look worse. He gets right back up and into the game, though.
Yeah, ready for the foul. Yeah. And there we go, down, through.
And there's Torvar Mirsky down on the water waiting for us. We're going to get to hear from the man himself, Simon.
So going out onto Torvar Mirsky's boat. Torvar, I mean, a performance and through to the next round. We could see a pretty big smile in your face as you came through the line. Back in your first match race regatta for a very long time on the helm. You know, in front of your home crowd must be a really big moment.
Yeah, it's huge. We're just over the moon. Nicklas Dackhammar really took it to us. He's a great team. He knows these boats really well, and I'm just so happy for our team and myself to make it through to this next stage, and it's such a nail-biter.
It seems like you've really built up a real team spirit on board, and the guys doing a great job in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Damien, Lockie and Cameron, we're kind of in that honeymoon period where we've just got together, and you know, we've got a lot of potential, and you know, you can't really do a lot wrong, so we're just happy to be, you know, charging along and make it through to the next stage.
And as you say, Nicolai, Nicklas Dackhammar, you know, really he responded to your aggression a couple of times and kept you on the ropes the whole way through. Really close match. Good preparation for the next round.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicklas schooled me in the starts in a couple of them, and or in 3 of them actually. So we weren't really expecting that. We were sort of thinking that the match racing and the starting aspect of it is going to be more of our strong point. But he took it to us and took 3 of those starts away from us and just made us work a lot harder.
Well, thank you, Torvar. Well done to your team. Come in and enjoy a beer here at the Yacht Club, and we'll see you in that quarter-final round.
See you soon, Chauzy. Thanks.
Well, there you have it, and of course, a lot more to play now. It's one thing to relax and say, good job today, but you've got to get right back in it tomorrow. And here are the 8 quarterfinalists who will be in it. Taylor Canfield will face Sam Gilmore. Stephen Thomas will face Phil Robertson. Torvar Mirsky against Jan Gishard. And Matt Jerwood against Chris Steele. Those are your 8 quarterfinalists. Then we move on to the semifinals and then the finals. Match Cup Australia here in Perth. It was all to play for this afternoon in Freshwater Bay in front of the hometown fans here at Freshwater Yacht Club. And as we now can see, 8 quarterfinalists have been decided. Some surprise matches sent some big names home, and others will move on into the semifinals tomorrow. Our coverage begins at 2 p.m. local time. I'm Tucker Thompson along with Simon Shaw. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.